Welcome to the Horror Hangout, a podcast where film fans watch the best and worst horror movies of all time and talk about them. My name is Ben Errington, and I'm joined by a very special guest. It's Johann Chipol. He's a filmmaker, podcaster, one half of Enigmatic Productions podcast, The Trash Tapes, film screening organizer, and film teacher, and of course, returning guest. Welcome back to the show, Johann. Hello.
My God, it's been a while, hasn't it?
It has been a while, yeah. It's been too damn long.
It's too long. I mean, I remember being on one of the earlier episodes. We did Wreck together. That was a while ago.
That was an incredibly early episode. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that you appeared on the podcast before Andy Conduit Turner did, co-host of the show.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm gonna double check that. So I think so. So yeah, episode 19 was when we did Wreck.
Yeah,
way back in, I guess, 2007.
Yeah.
Oh God, 2007. I added an extra 10 years on to that.
Have you been doing it this long, sir?
would we have ran out of films to cover if that was the case?
No, there's something I've learned by doing like movie podcasts is that there's always a movie you haven't found yet. And when you find that movie and you watch it, you realize, oh, there's more shit to talk about. So
there's so much more shit, and shit is being released over and over again every single week. Oh, here we go. So Andy first appeared on the show, episode 23. It follows, and you appeared on the show, episode 19. So 4 episodes before him. That's a little win. That's a little victory there for you.
I am part of the old guard. Is official now.
The old guard. And if you notice by the there's only 2 voices. Andy isn't here this week.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, the last few weeks has been a bit sporadic in terms of us getting together as regularly as we'd like to. And the festive plans in the week leading up to Christmas have kind of been all over the place, trying to get all 3 of us, not in the same room, but, in the same virtual room together has been difficult. So unfortunately, we couldn't do that. And last week, I was feeling a little bit under the weather. And you know what? I still am feeling a little bit under the weather, but I'm going to persevere because I'm desperate to talk about this film. I'm desperate to talk to you, Johann, because it's been so long.
Yeah.
And also, Christmas special, I guess we should call this episode.
Yeah, this would be the Christmas special, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And I don't think we've ever done like an out-and-out sort of Christmas special. We've kind of covered, I think we did an episode where we covered like festive films in general. I think we've done some other episodes which have been about films that came out around about this time of the year, but never, I would say, a specifically horror-focused Christmas film singular episode. I don't think so, at least. So this is a first for us, and a film that you're well-versed in, I believe. Is that correct?
I am incredibly well-versed in it, for the fact that this is, as basically sort of the creator of the Trash Tapes podcast and basically a lover of cult and bad films in general, like I told you when you gave me the list of movies, I said, like, it would be stupid of me not to talk about this one because it's my brand almost, it's my kind of brand. It is trashy, schlocky, controversial nonsense. And so if I did any other movie, it would be a disservice. So I'm glad to be put on for this one.
Yeah, absolutely no disrespect to you, Johann, but I would never invite you on the show if we were doing a big highbrow horror classic.
No, you have to put me right in the gutter, mate. Right in the gutter, swimming in the filth with everyone else, and that's where I feel at home.
Oh, it's good. I'm glad to hear it. Because we will take everything down a notch just for you. But yeah, when you say controversial, this film was very controversial, wasn't it?
Yeah, huge. And I've got some history talking about that when we get into it. But yeah, it is hugely controversial. Bloody picketers and people really not wanting this movie to actually ever come out. So it's solid gold. So what a Christmas special is. If you're feeling joyous and happy, just know that what we're going to talk about is going to make you feel utterly depressed. So merry flipping Christmas, like some people's Christmases, I guess. But
yeah, of course, Christmas isn't a great time for everybody. So if you expect, but then again, if you're tuning into a horror movie podcast, you're not always going to be thinking about happiness and rainbows and butterflies and unicorns. I mean, you might be thinking about some of that stuff. Yeah. But
we're here to ruin Santa for you.
We're here to ruin Santa. And Santa may already be ruined for you. Some people's first experience of Santa might have been seeing your dad, his beard kind of like drooping down, like leering over you at the bottom of the bed as he plays. That could have been that. Maybe sitting on a stranger's knee in a shopping mall.
Being slightly inappropriate. I mean, there was
slightly inappropriate.
Yeah, I mean, have you ever heard of these? One of my favorite things to do is sometimes when you look at some of the old newspaper things, they do reviews of like winter wonderlands they do. And there's one which was really weird where literally this one person, Santa, who was clearly being a bit of a drunk, just started just ranting to the kids about gun control and about an entire massacre that was happening in the United States at the time. And it's just funny seeing all of these kids sitting there going, Santa, what are you talking about? And all the parents just grabbing these kids going, what is this crazy right-wing gun nut doing as a Santa Claus? Go away.
Santa Claus, he's into all that stuff.
Look, there's been loads of there's loads of movies with Santa Claus has weapons, so you know it's a thing. Yeah.
One of the funniest sort of like weird evil Santa real life stories I ever heard. Do you remember the TV show Russell Brand's Ponderland, which was on like E4, like probably 2010 or something?
Yeah.
You used to go back through like old footage, like documentary footage and stuff from like the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And there was one story about a Santa Claus who'd been employed, and his name was Norbert Cleaverhook. That was like his real name, Norbert Cleaverhook. And they had the list of like all the things he'd done, and it eventually led to him getting sacked, getting fired as the Santa Claus. And one of them was shouting at children, swearing at children, and then the very last one was hitting a parent. But then they were like, to be fair, if you're hiring a man called Norbert Cleaverhook
yes,
to be your Santa, then you've kind of you've made a rod for your own back there, or a hook for your own back.
I just kind of want to imagine the interview process and say like just they had to read his CV and go Cleaverhook, huh?
Oh wait, I've got the exact quote here. So apparently he attacked one child, then swore at the parent who intervened. Hey, that's my son. Fuck you.
Damn you, dirty kids. Smack him. You've been naughty, you bastard.
It must be pretty stressful, though, having loads of kids sit on your knee over and over again. I imagine quite, like, taxing as well, like, for that particular knee. Unless you alternate knees. I suppose you have to, wouldn't you?
I'm just having a thought of just having this one knee just being extra sore because all these kids are just sitting and bouncing on it.
Careful with my knee. I've had 28 kids. No, 28 is probably overcooking it. 2,800
kids doing this, jumping on that same knee, you bastard.
And there is a moment in this film as well where the stresses of that become clear in a very unnerving scene. Which of course we will get to.
Yes.
So evil Santa Clauses aside for now, I would like to talk to you about a new cult film club screening that you're hosting at the Derby Quad in January.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
Well, okay. So at the moment, I've been collaborating with the Quad and Derby to do cult film screenings, and I've been wanting to do more like this for a while. I love film clubs, and I've been wanting to do some more film clubby stuff like that. So one of the first things I've been doing is talking to the Quad and saying, can we get these kind of particular films out? The first one we did was in November, and we did we did Pink Flamingos, which is top quality gold. But the only problem is, I thought that we did it because it was the 50th anniversary of that movie. And if anyone knows Pink Flamingos, you know how incredibly controversial, how very difficult it is to sell to people who've never seen Pink Flamingos. It literally ends with a shit-eating grin, like literally. And so you're like, okay, it was almost like a challenge for me. It's like, how many people can I convince to watch this piece of crap? Even John Waters, director, says he's almost baffled as to how this movie's now in the American Film Library, like officially in the American Film Library. So I was able to get 25 to 30 people to attend this screening. And I said, okay, there are some weirdos out there who want to watch weird stuff. Great. I'm going to get it. So in January the 14th, at the Quad and Derby, about 8 o'clock, we are going to be doing another cult film, but not as weird as that. But it's weird in a different way, but not as controversial. We're doing The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension. One, amazing title. Best title, one of the
Yeah.
best titles in movie history. Secondly, it's got everything under the sun and it's ridiculous. Like it's got Peter Weller, aka RoboCop before he was RoboCop. Jeff Goldblum in the movie dressed entirely in a cowboy outfit for no other reason other than that he just looks good in a cowboy outfit.
Amazing.
There's Peter Weller is a karate expert. He is a rock star. He is a scientist. He is a top surgeon. He discovers interdimensional travel, and he's off to fight weird ass space aliens. And it is just solid gold. It is purely a cult film, and so we're wanting that to go. If this one goes well, we're hoping to do others every 2 months. So we have ideas. Okay. I want to do every 2 months. We want to do a cult film club screening every 2 months. And we're doing things like we want to have goodie bags. We want prizes. We want people to dress up, that kind of vibe. We want it to feel more like a party, but you end up watching this weird movie, but everyone's involved. That's a community vibe. If that turns out well, we have others. I have a list of movies I want to do. I want to do Scott Pilgrim versus the World, for example, which is just an amazing movie to watch, but it's a weird one because it failed miserably in the cinemas. But it became a cult following in DVD and Blu-ray. We want to do Jennifer's Body, for example, which is just solid gold. But it's also a movie that was deemed not very good in cinemas and didn't do very well properly. But then we also do other weirder movies like Bubba Hotep, which is a great movie. It's Bruce Campbell playing an old Elvis. Like, how would you not want to see this? It's solid gold. So we're hoping that that's the vibe we're going for. We're going to do this every 2 months. The vibe
it seems you're going for is solid gold. Just if anything isn't solid gold, then please step away.
Yes.
Sounds amazing though. Every 2 months as well. That would be spectacular.
Yeah. We wanted to do that, and then other things as well. I've been in talks as well to other things as well. Like I have in Nottingham, there is the Nottingham Bad Film Club, which I am hoping to also be working on a podcast with them. But also, they do something with Andy's Burger Shack, and so we're also hoping to doing events with Andy's Burger Shack as well. So we're hoping to do a bit of a weird, like I've moved away almost to become like this weird events, like distributing creator, and I kind of love that. It's a different angle. So
it is a different angle, but I guess you're still doing something that you really love, and still talking about films that are a little bit left of field and a little bit crazy.
Exactly.
Which is
just
great.
Giving a platform for films that particularly would never get a shine properly unless you because there's some films out there that don't get the opportunity. Like, I said, for example, Scott Pilgrim versus the World. And for us, we say, we know this is the best movie ever made. Like, we know that. But there are a whole bunch of people who never saw it on the big screen. Loads of people never saw on the big screen. There are people nowadays, younger people, who've never heard of this. And you'd be like, okay, well, here you go. Or people who might miss the boat. Let's give them a chance. That's the kind of vibe I want from these screenings.
Yeah.
So,
and it's always great to see a film like that on the big screen. Even if you're, you might be a fan of it already. Great to see it on the big screen, either again or for the first time. That sounds great, man.
But just imagine as well, like it involved, like you get a goodie bag, you get prizes, you might get encouraged to dress up, for example, or there's a drinking game that comes with it. It's the full communal thing, and that's what I feel like is, especially since after lockdown being almost like a year and a half to 2 years of just feeling very nervous about going to cinema. You want the thing going, come on, let's everyone gather around, let's laugh, let's enjoy it, let's scream, let's shout out the words, let's really enjoy the screening in that way and feel like a community. So,
Sounds amazing, man. Really does sound good, really does sound fun.
Yeah.
And that's January the 14th, isn't it? That
January the 14th.
Buckaroo Banzai.
Yes.
Amazing. Awesome. So, I guess we'll jump into some horror news then.
Go on.
Before we continue. Couple of trailers this week. First of all, Scream 6. Have you seen this trailer?
Yes, I have.
Oh, hello. The way you say that makes me think you've got opinions.
I genuinely think it is one of the better teaser trailers I've ever seen. It is it's crafted so well, and I mean, I've talked with Ed, my co-host on the podcast, but also with Enigmatic Productions. We talked about Scream. We did a whole video on Scream, and I felt very deflated by Scream 5. Like, I didn't like it as much as most people did.
I think I think I'm with you on that. Yeah.
Like, I didn't like it as much at all. I think the ending of that felt very flat. But with this trailer, I think the good thing is we moved away from like America suburbia. We're now going into New York City, and and that's gonna instantly spice things up more. And I'm so excited.
Take any slasher and put them in New York, and immediately it elevates it to this next level. You know, obviously with Friday the 13th, it did it.
Jason Takes Manhattan.
Jason Takes Manhattan, of course.
Yeah.
And there's loads of Easter eggs in the trailer as well. And this is the thing: if it takes place in New York and on Halloween night, that is tasty.
That's so good, because that's the thing, is then everyone's in costume, everyone's involved, it's a big party, everyone's going out of the thing. You have no idea who it could be. You're adding more to the whodunit, which works better, because in Scream 5, the whole point, it's kind of like a weird it's basically Scream's always like a whodunit, right? We want to know who did this, who is the guy, right? And in the fifth one, I instantly sussed it out in the first 15 minutes, and that kind of ruined it for me. It's like, it's you guys, isn't it? Because you're so obvious, like it's too obvious. So in this one, if they really make it like a big question mark, excellent.
I know what you mean, but then I felt like, obviously Scream has been very meta for like the whole duration of the franchise. Almost, when something's so meta that it almost takes it one step too far. It takes it over. I felt like Scream 5 took it a step too far. It was almost like every time anybody was in a scene, it was like a wink to the camera going, might be this person, might be that person, it could be this person. And I don't know. I feel like I enjoy the meta element of it and the whodunit element, but I kind of like trying to work it out myself. And it did feel a bit heavy-handed in terms of that. I think also, absolutely no disrespect to any of the legacy characters, but I think having next to none, I mean, maybe none, but probably next to none legacy characters in this new version in Scream 6 is probably going to help the film a lot.
Yes.
The fact that it had those legacy characters, it kind of feels the need, because then at least it'll step away from the fact that Ghostface and the character of Ghostface, whoever is Ghostface, is obsessed with Sidney Prescott. At least now it's like, okay, these people survived a killer as well, so they're just as easily targeted as Sidney Prescott.
And here's the thing as well that makes more interesting, reason why it's also costume and Halloween, which is why I'm so excited, is because obviously you have the Stab franchise in the Scream universe, and so Ghostface is already technically a character as a costume. So it just makes it even more meta at this point, because how many times have you gone to Halloween and how many people have dressed up as Ghostface when you went out on Halloween? This is the same vibe. Well, I'm so excited.
The opening scene in Scream 2 as well, the cinema. Everybody dressed as Ghostface. Then I'm just really looking forward to it. Obviously, Jenna Ortega has been growing in popularity because of Wednesday as well. So the fact that she's involved, and I believe also Samara Weaving is in it too.
Yes.
And possibly Hayden Panettiere is returning. Possibly. I think I saw a screenshot which was supposed to be saying, I was thinking Scream 4, it was never 100% clear that she died or not.
So is that their version of a legacy character, which is interesting?
Exactly. Their version of a legacy character from the fourth installment of a movie as well. Yeah, and I'm glad that they've straight up gone and called it Scream 6, because I was worried after Scream was just called Scream 5 was called Scream 5 Cream.
Awful.
So I was worried that they were going to somehow try and call this film Scream 2, which I'd kind of heard rumors about, but there we go. It's called Scream 6, and I can't believe I never saw it before. The M very easily turns into a Roman numeral 6.
There you go. It's all clever. It's all clever.
With a little slash as well. As soon as that logo pops up and it gets slashed by a metaphorical knife and becomes Scream 6, I was like, hell yes, I'm involved. It's kind of crazy that we're getting it in March next year, which is
surprisingly quick.
Incredibly quick, which makes me think, as soon as the success of the last one happened, they were like, okay, let's go, let's make it happen.
I mean, there was a lot of news. I mean, there was a lot of news of them going into 6 and all the legacy characters not sure whether they want to come back and all that kind of stuff. So they kind of just the moment it's almost they knew they had they had something here and they just ran with it, which is great.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have an idea and you want to go for it. And so yeah, I'm genuinely excited for this just from the trailer alone. It's very rare because I have been disappointed by trailers. Like I have genuinely been disappointed by watching the movie after this really awesome trailer going, God, it's not like that. But this has got me pumped.
Yeah. I think just teaser trailers from now on. If we can have teaser trailers that give away as little as possible, and that's it. Don't give us a story trailer or a fourth trailer or a TV spot or anything like that.
Yeah.
So also talking of trailers, there was also kind of not necessarily a horror movie, probably more of an action film, but it's got dinosaurs in it. So let's say horror. Don't know if you also saw the trailer for the movie 65, which it stars Adam Driver, and it's like a past meets future, high concept dinosaur horror movie. Looks like some space pilot dude crash lands on a strange alien planet. It's and then it turns out obviously it's Earth, but 65 million years ago. And there is a really good like dinosaur reveal shot in this trailer as well, like really good, because any and every movie like this is just going to be like, oh, what's this, Jurassic Park? Oh, it's same old stuff. But it kind of made me think, is this the closest we're going to get to like a Dino Crisis game?
I was quite literally thinking that.
Not game, movie.
You were I literally was thinking that when you described it, going like, because I haven't seen it, and I was going like, it sounds like Dino Crisis. Like it sounds like a weird mix of Dino Crisis 3 leading into the first Dino Crisis on the island.
It sounds like Dino Crisis meets like Planet of the Apes. You know, like Spaceman crash lands in the past, or extreme future, and he's back on Earth. It kind of sounds like that, and they've thrown in as well, which is like one of the most popular tropes currently, which is man is protecting child. You know, we've got it with we've got it with the Mandalorian, we've got it with The Last of Us. What else have we got it with recently? Loads of stuff where man protects child. Like the only survivor of this crash is him and this young girl. And a child. He's like, bloody hell, you know what? Dinosaurs are about. I'll protect you. Don't worry about it. And also looks like some really good like sci-fi kit as well. Like some of the rifle he's using looks really cool. I'm excited for it. And I heard a lot of people say, oh, we need like a dinosaur horror movie. And while this isn't exactly that, it seems to be hitting a lot of the correct beats in terms of genre that makes it kind of feel like that.
It's always weird when people say like we need a dinosaur horror movie when the first Jurassic Park existed, because the first Jurassic Park acts like a horror movie. It's a monster movie. You've got the T-Rex coming in, acts like a 100%. Slasher killer. Where's the goat? The raptors are hiding around and literally stalking prey and attacking them. Clever girl. It's a horror movie, really.
And a lot of it takes place at night while it's raining as well, which is like the perfect time.
Yeah, so people are asking, where's my dinosaur horror movie? Sit back and watch Jurassic Park again. Just because it's a PG and not that bloody doesn't mean it's not actually a horror movie. It's acting
used to terrify me. Samuel Jackson's severed arm.
Yes, like it's terrifying. Like even now, like that still gets me in a weird way. You see, like say, he's fine. That's why I know it. But it's like, oh god, that's gross. That's actually gross.
Mr. Arnold. Oh, that's your arm.
Yeah, there you go.
Also, the the Cartoon Network or Adult Swim animated show Primal exists as well.
Yeah, and that's really good.
Which is great, and that is the most extreme. In any other format is horror. So there's like a zombie dinosaur episode. So I think if you want your dinosaur horror, go and check that out as well. But yeah, 65 looks great. I would say watch the trailer because I feel like it doesn't give away loads. Initially, people were saying, "Oh, I wish the reveal of dinosaurs was a bit more obvious." Literally on the poster is a dinosaur skull. So
it's it sounds like to me like I think people are thinking too much than what it should be. You know what I mean? I feel like it's going to be fun sci-fi schlock. I'm happy for it. Like it's not, and you know what? It's fine. Like I think I'm excited. By the sound of things, it's going to be quite a fun little sci-fi romp. So I'm good for it.
I think some of the writers of A Quiet Place are involved, and apparently Sam Raimi is like a producer. Don't really know what that means these days, but still, It looks great. Another piece of news, and I thought I'd bring this up with you because this might be a film that you're a fan of.
Go on.
I'm going to say as a fan of bad films, but I think this film's pretty good if I remember correctly. The movie The Keep. Do you remember that? You know,
I remember The Keep
with the Nazis and the pyramid and the.
Yeah, I remember The Keep.
Yeah, well, apparently there's going to be a new adaptation from Greg Nicotero. So essentially a remake of it. It is a book as well, and I didn't realize that. But the Paramount's 1983 movie adaptation, The Keep, was apparently marred by studio interference and ended up being a bomb at the box office.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, so I remember seeing it. So I'm looking at it. I didn't know it was a book. I'm gonna have to find this book because it looks like one of those 80s paperbacks with all like the embossed lettering. It just looks spectacular. So I'm definitely gonna find this and read this. So yeah, it's like an elite SS extermination squad dispatched to solve a problem in a small castle in the Transylvanian Alps. They find something that's both powerful and terrifying. Can't really elaborate on it further without spoiling anything. But I think this is a perfect example of a film that should be remade because not only did it bomb at the box office, but I think it's got probably a bit of a cult following. But it's not one of those films that I think gets talked about very often at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, give us a remake of something like this.
This is the thing, like remakes. Yeah, if you're going to do a remake, you need to find a movie that has a really good idea or really good premise, but did not do well because of lack of budget or interference, or just didn't do well. And The Keep is a good example of this. Like, this is definitely one that you can go like, yeah, this is great idea. Let's do that. Because there's been other movies about. It's been loads of movies, oddly enough, about military going into something related to Nazis, and then there is a magical thing or zombies or something. Like, there's loads of these kind of things. Like, what was that one? Is it out? What was it? Outlawed? No, I can't remember what it's called. Warlord. No. What was the other one? It's something like that. Overlord. That's the one. Overlord. Like, that's another one, basically, isn't it? It's the same kind of thing. Oh, don't mess with Nazis. They have weird magical science stuff. So that trope isn't an old trope.
Exactly
but
that. No.
It is, but it's not an old trope. But, you know, if you want to, it's the reason why it's done before like this multiple times, because it works. So why not go back to the one that kind of really had the opportunity to do really well based on an actual book and just make it better? So,
yeah. Nazis getting their comeuppance. Raiders of the Lost Ark kind of makes me think of that. Be careful, don't open that ark, it'll melt your face. Oh no, my face has been melted.
It's so funny when you really think about the movie, because the whole point is the movie would still end the same if Indiana Jones did not participate in it, which is absolutely hilarious.
Exactly, yeah. Just close your eyes, Indy. Just close your eyes.
And he said they go like, if you did nothing, they would have died anyway. Super.
Think about all the effort you went through just to participate, essentially, and stand by as all the Nazis got their faces melted to mush.
Great, still a great effect though. Still one of the best visual effects of the faces melting.
Really terrifying as well. Okay, and last piece of news I've got here is that the Five Nights at Freddy movie has cast Matthew Lillard.
Okay.
Which is pretty exciting. Josh Hutcherson as well. Like, I do recognize. Apparently, he's in some stuff. I mean, if you Google him, you'll recognize his face. He's a younger lad. But Matthew Lillard, of course, yes. So obviously,
interesting.
Ghost, Scream. A big horror guy, and appearing in another horror. Obviously, an adaptation of an incredibly popular game as well. So
yes,
this could be fun. I know that we've already seen the Nicolas Cage Willy's. What's it called?
Willy's Wonderland.
Willy's Wonderland. I went to say that then, but I was like, that's wrong. But no, it is. Willy's
Wonderland, totally is. It's Willy's Wonderland. I wasn't a big fan of that. It felt like the only reason why people ever watched it was because of Nicolas Cage. But even then, Nicolas Cage wasn't as crazy as he was, because he was mute pretty much the entire time, other than grunting and playing pinball. And you're like, sure, okay. If you want a good but slightly satirical, like the Five Nights at Freddy's like movie, you should watch the Banana Splits movie.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, we've mentioned that on the show a couple of times. I've never seen it. I believe Andy has.
I love it. That to me is like, okay, we got the stupid ass premise of like, killer animatronic, whatever's cool. But now we do with the Banana Splits, which I remember watching as a kid on reruns on Cartoon Network or something. And then like, I'm thinking, like, what is these weird 60s nonsense? And there's also just the weird, cynical brain of going, right, this is an IP that barely anyone will remember the banana splits. Let's make it absolutely terrifying and weird. And
what I kind of like, though, is for the people who do remember the banana splits going into that movie expecting something completely different.
Yeah, I'm just imagining like someone in their 50s or 60s going back, oh, I remember the banana splits back in the day. You sit there and you're just genuinely terrified, wide-eyed that they're literally slaughtering children.
I still, every now and then, I think about that film and I think, did that happen? Or did I imagine that happened?
It did feel like a fever dream. That's not a lie.
What kind of makes it even weird? I'm looking here, even weirder. The music by Patrick Stump, the frontman of Fall Out Boy.
Yes, it is.
What's going on?
It's a fever dream. It's a fever dream.
How does anyone get hired for this? But yeah, I think that's a great recommendation. Check that out instead of Willy's Wonderland. But
so my question then is actually then, do you think the Five Nights at Freddy's film is going to be any good?
I mean, to be fair, I've not really been following much about it apart from the fact it's being made. So I don't know. They need to do something a little bit different because Willy's Wonderland is essentially the plot of Five Nights at Freddy's, right? Which is like just
to a degree, But the thing is with Five Nights at Freddy's is, and I'm not doing it because it's like it's a scary deep dive once you get into the lore. Once you get into the lore of Five Nights at Freddy's, and you're going like, this is actually nonsense. Like, there's people who do nearly entire YouTube careers breaking down the so-called lore of Five Nights at Freddy's, right? That's how insane it's gotten. So does it mean now this has to be a movie with all the insane fan lore? Because if that's the case, then this movie's going to be absolutely bonkers. And also, like, why? Because you've made something very simple, like killer animatronic robots, kill someone, who's a security guard in a place overnight, and turn it into like, oh, they're secretly ghost children, and there is a killer on a thing, and they also may be in an animatronic body, but also they may have also been a scientist that brought back people from the dead, and there's zombies, and there's this thing, and then there's that thing, and then your brain melts, and then you realize, why did I spend 3 hours reading this nonsense? So it has
3 hours.
Just 3 hours, rather than just like, it's ridiculous. So it's either going to be absolutely nothing to do with anything else other than just like the Willy's Wonderland thing, or it's going to have this insane amount of lore that is going to completely alienate most people.
I think it will, because a lot of kids play Five Nights at Freddy's just for the fact it's got jump scares, right? And so they're not going to be interested in all of the lore, and I'm assuming it's going to be like a R-rated, well, maybe not R, but it's going to be, it's not going to be.
It's a weird thing. Like, it's aimed like the people who play it or people who are very into the lore, because you can go and buy toys for 10-year-olds for Five Nights at Freddy's, which is a very weird thing. It's bizarre. I do not know how this movie's ever going to work, basically.
It sounds pretty nuts, but I'm sure when it's out, when we see some trailers for it, we'll know a little bit more. So that's all I've got for horror news. I guess we'll talk about what we've been watching. Have you seen anything this week? It doesn't have to just be festive themed. It can be, I guess it could be anything that you'd like to recommend or not recommend, of course.
Well, a couple of things I've been watching. It's about 2 weeks ago, I have watched Violent Night. So I know, Ben, you've been wanting to watch it, so I'm not going to ruin it by doing like an in-depth review of it. But I saw Violent Night, and it's all right. I think the best way I can describe it, it's all right. David Harbour is amazing as Santa. Absolutely. He's you can see he's having the best time.
Never die.
He was having so much fun as Santa, and it's a weird Santa because the Santa has a very bizarre backstory that's really awesome, and the deaths are genuinely, some of them are quite creative, although it does feel like the only way the movie becomes funnier is that it has to top itself. And then the movie almost feels like, in a weird pacing way, like, okay, now we have to top it more and more and more and more and more in order to be relevant.
I see what you mean.
The ending, though, I'm not going to ruin it, but the ending, though, the deaths that happen there are over the top, and you do laugh your ass off because going, that's amazing. Well done. Thank you, Christmas magic. So,
and he actually is Santa as well. He's not like a man.
No, he is genuinely Saint Nick. He is Father Christmas. He is Santa Claus. He is all this and more.
Kris Kringle.
He
Chris
goes by a
Kringle.
man of many names.
He goes by a man. He's a man of many names. Yeah, I've only seen the trailer, so I kind of thought it looks great. I saw the trailer in the cinema as well, so I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm sold. I'm sold on that.
Yeah.
I would like to see it because I feel like if I don't see it before Christmas, I may not be as into it after Christmas once all the festivities died down a little bit, and I take my little Christmas paper crown off and say, let's set that aside for next year. That's right. I wear the same one every year.
Just the one you've saved for many years.
Since the beginning, yeah. So have a cracker. You gotta be ever so careful with it. It's like it's like an ancient Egyptian, like the parchment. Place it on your head. Careful, it'll turn to dust. Yeah. So
yeah.
What else did you say you've seen?
I've also been catching up and finally saw all of Wednesday now, so I'm very happy with that. I've been really wanting to watch Wednesday because I've always been a big fan of the two movies starring Raul Julia and all that kind of stuff. I've loved them, and so I was kind of slightly hesitant. And here's a weird thing: I'm not sure if it's just you as well, like me, or just anyone else or you as well. But it's like when I was little, I always thought that the two Addams Family films were Tim Burton because they felt Tim Burton-esque, but they weren't. Yeah. They were done by the guy who did Men in Black. So I'm like, huh. This is a new thing.
It's weird that there's like that connection, isn't there, between Addams Family and Addams Family values. What's his name? Barry Summit?
Yeah, some like Sumfield or Sunfeld or something like that. Yeah, but he basically did the Men in Black movies. Yeah. And I just find it interesting because I think logically, knowing Tim Burton's oeuvre, like is his thing, that he would it would instantly be like, oh, this is totally a movie done by him. So it's fascinating seeing a TV show like where he's finally doing the thing that we always thought he did, and not only nailing it, but really getting out the kind of vibe that we always thought was anyway, and very well cast, and seeing seeing Catherine Zeta-Jones again, just killing it as Morticia Addams is spot on.
Yeah, I mean, casting seems to be spot on. Yeah, I mean, I've not seen it yet. But I would like to. It's one of those things that maybe I'll give it a chance over Christmas. Yeah. But yeah, the casting seems to be the one thing that's like spot on, and it's captured the imagination of like lots of different generations as well. It seems, which is good to see.
Yeah, it's good about that way because as well, I mean, again, General Ortega killing it as Wednesday. And it's touching a few things the right way. It's almost having like that moment because obviously on TikTok and other places, the dance scene is literally blew the fudge up. Like it's blown up. It's the biggest thing right now.
Yeah, there's that's obviously a huge thing on there. And then I think there's a trend where you kind of make it look like you've got Thing on your head.
Yes.
Like running around on your head.
You do that thing and they have you do that. Yeah, and pretend to have that. Yeah, they do. It's a thing now.
You can't buy this stuff. I bet the marketing teams at Netflix are just like absolutely over the moon with this. But yeah, it does look great, and I'm keen to check out as well. Yeah.
Yes. So cool. That's mostly what I've been watching, like in terms of films and TV at the moment. I'm kind of like a little bit of a lull at the moment. I'm kind of waiting for some of the things to watch properly once I'm home, when I fly home for Christmas, and some movies like that, because I'm going to be seeing Avatar: The Way of Water when I'm back at home, which I'm not sure how I feel about. I'm not sure whether I'm genuinely excited for it or I'm dreading it. I mean, there's a weird sort of lull mode because
I think just sit back and just enjoy the nice things you'll see. Who cares?
Literally just wash over me like the plot, water. Yeah.
I'm probably going to see it this week as well. I think it's one of those things that I need to see it in the cinema. I don't really want to wait until it's out on other media, just because I want to see it on the biggest screen possible. Yeah. I saw something recently which was like the list of James Cameron's movies and like how regularly he released movies. The gap between Avatar and this one is astronomical. Like, in terms of his career, at least, it's almost like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, I mean, the only movie he's done in between that, but wasn't officially directed by him because he wrote the script and produced it, was Alita: Battle Angel. Because he wrote the script and produced it and then gave it to Rob Rodriguez because he was too busy with Avatar, which drove me bananas. Because
too busy with Avatar, 19 sequels for Avatar.
He's already filmed like the other two, and there's a fifth one. And I'm going, for God's sake, this is the end of your career now. You're just doing Avatar movies now, which is somewhat upsetting if you really think about. Again,
it is somewhat upsetting, but I don't know. This next film's really gonna have to pull out all the stops to make me go, I want to see 3 more of these.
Yeah. I want
Get
to
'em
see
down,
three more 3-hour
Are they gonna be
3D
like
movies.
released like every year, pretty much?
I don't know whether it's every year, every 2 years. I have no idea.
I
But I
did. I
think
did enjoy it when like a Lord of the Rings movie came out every December. That was peak cinema. Peak
that was
cinema.
peak cinema was whenever there was a big blockbuster guaranteed to come out every December, and it was all
Yeah.
part of the same thing. Oh, it did feel good when that happened. I just don't think Avatar's going to be that.
Yeah. I know. It doesn't quite feel like it's going to be, does it? But we live in hope. Okay. I've watched a couple of things this week.
Go on.
So basically, based on recommendations from Andy over the last couple of weeks, as I've been a little bit unwell, I've not even been well enough to kind of watch movies, which is kind of very, very unlike me. Usually
That's
I just
shocking.
stick all the movies in my eyes, but I haven't been doing it. However, one day when I was feeling particularly ropey, I decided to stick on The Ginger Dead Man, Gary Busey. So, and I've never seen it. Andy watched it a couple of weeks ago and kind of said, "You gotta watch. Come on, you gotta watch this." So, one thing it made me think of this. So, what Arnold Schwarzenegger did for ice puns in Batman and Robin, Gary Busey does for baked goods / sweet treat puns in this. The puns are so prevalent that sometimes I'm like, what does that even mean? It's just a pun. A pun is put in place of a piece of dialogue for no damn reason. There's a part where someone just goes, "'Cause the Candyman can," and I'm like, what does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. It's just like in context of the rest of the conversation, it meant nothing. I mean, this film is trash. Let's be honest.
It is pure trash.
It's pure trash and totally watchable trash, because Gary Busey, it's chewing the scenery. I like the fact that they've given the Ginger Dead Man the same teeth as Gary Busey. So essentially, it's like the same sort of concept as Chucky. It's Child's Play, sorry.
Yeah.
Because it's gone, here's a killer, he's died, and now he's in a tiny little diminutive
baked good
body. But this one, now he's a baked good. Now he's a ginger dead man.
I'm just imagining the thought that if there weren't any gingerbread men around, like what would he have gone into? Would he have gone to a croissant? Would he have gone into a loaf of bread? Where would he have gone that time round if it wasn't a gingerbread man waiting for him to be possessed into?
Just kill me. I'm in a wholemeal loaf. Just kill me. Yeah, because if he didn't turn into something with arms and legs, like he wouldn't be able to do anything.
No, it would have been like somewhat weirdly sentient. Like it would have been like the game I Am Bread, where you're literally a sentient piece of toast. But yeah, I've seen that. It is awful. It's the only thing that's saving is the fact there's such a bizarre performance and the fact that it is knowingly stupid. I think there's some movies that look, a good bad movie means that it's being sincere and thinks that the movie is like peak genius. But you also have the other end where the movie knows that it's flipping dumb, like it knows it's stupid. So they run with it, and I'm glad it runs with it, because if it didn't run with it and trying to make this as sincere and as serious as possible, I think I would have hated it even more so, because it just it can't take it seriously in any shape or form. And also Gary Busey's just, he's literally eating the furniture in every shape and form. So I'm
most definitely. I don't understand anything about this film. I don't understand what the purpose of anybody is.
Yes.
And what the end goal of the Ginger Dead Man is either, apart from
there's no motive. There's no motive for this. It's literally the idea of these kind of films is someone thought of the title first, Ginger Dead Man, and said, aha, we have a movie. Right around that, please.
What should this movie be about? And then they had the concept and the plot within the next 2 minutes, and they were right there again. That's it.
There we go. Hire Gary Busey. He's the only one available.
And continuing with Festive Fright, so I did also watch Christmas Bloody Christmas, which is new on Shudder, the Joe Bagos movie, which Andy did mention last week when he was chatting with Holly about Salem's Lot. So I think I've seen all, or maybe 2 other major releases from Joe Bagos, which is he directed a film called Bliss and also VFW. That's the only other movies I've seen. I thought this film is, so in terms of a concept, robotic Santa Claus goes haywire and begins a rampant killing spree through a small town.
So Futurama.
So essentially Futurama. It's neon soaked which is interesting for a Christmas themed movie. It's not very festive at all. It's one of those like dirty, dingy, grimy. I don't know how many more times I can say words that sound the same. Sound the same thing. But it's like that sort of film. The only thing that kind of didn't resonate with me, and I feel like I had the same problem with the movie Bliss, is that the characters are like douchebags. Like every character is an abysmal douchebag where you're just like, I don't really have any interest in anyone surviving. Everybody kind of talks like this sort of like ultra cool, or somebody's idea of an ultra cool hipster, like in terms of what music they listen to, in terms of what films they enjoy. In such a cynical, aggressive, sweary way, where I'm like, if I knew any of these people in real life, I would just go, I'm not friends with you guys. See you later. So it kind of felt like that. And to be fair, I was just waiting for the Robo Santa action to begin. When the Robo Santa action begins, I had a great time.
Yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it?
It was everything leading up to that kind of made me feel like, okay, I get it, but come on. I felt a bit like that with Bliss, VFW, which I enjoyed a lot more.
I've seen that one.
You've seen VFW. I think also, obviously, it's got Stephen Lang and a lot of other veteran actors. I feel like the acting caliber is a lot better than perhaps the other two films. So I think that's perhaps why I enjoyed it a bit more. That's not to, and maybe it's not the actor's fault. Maybe it's a script thing a little bit. Who knows? But what I'm going to say is, in terms of visuals, in terms of action, in terms of B-movie thrills, it's great.
Nice.
And also, it's always good to add a new Christmas horror movie to your annual watch list as well, isn't it, for this time of year?
Indeed. It's interesting how there's actually a surprising amount of Christmassy, wintry horror movies. There's loads of them, actually, but it's trying to find the good ones and filtering them out and finding which ones feel to your kind of idea of horror, which is good because horror is a very subjective thing, I feel, and that, whatever, everyone's scared of something, so every different interpretation is great. So if there's another one to add to the pile, even better. Whether you like it or not, there's a new one in the pile, everybody.
There's a new one in the pile. Take another one. That is pretty much all I've seen this week. Nice. apart from the film of the week, Johann, which is Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Yes.
And that film is a 1984 American psychological slasher movie directed by Charles E. Sellier Jr., starring Robert Brian Wilson, Lilyan Chauvin, Gilmer McCormick. The story concerns a young man named Billy who suffers from post-traumatic stress over witnessing his parents' murder on Christmas Eve by a man disguised as Santa Claus and his subsequent upbringing in a Catholic orphanage.
Yes.
And then obviously what happens after that, we'll get into that so much. So this film, in terms of ratings across the board, we've got 5.8 on IMDb, 3.0 on Letterboxd. On Rotten Tomatoes, it's got a 44% critic score, a 39% audience score, and I've got some choice reviews here.
Go on.
So, Ian West says, controversial, mean-spirited murder jam and a holiday injected with distastefulness, right up my alley. Matt Winfield says, hey, nuns, maybe the kid who watched his parents get butchered by Santa shouldn't be a part of Christmas arts and crafts, just saying.
Yeah.
Matt Winfield, 5 stars, that is. And then Brett says, hot slasher movie killers are always named Billy. 3.5 stars. I can only think of one more. I can only think of the guy from Scream.
Oh my God, that's brilliant.
Any other Billies?
I think I can't remember any other Billies, but I never thought of that. Oh, that's hilarious. Oh, it just reminds me of the scene later on when we were introduced to an 18-year-old Billy. It's really funny.
18-year-old Billy who's absolutely stacked. And as I think I mentioned before, he's got the ruddiest cheeks that any man has ever had. He looks like he's just got in from a very, very cold night. And he's been stomping home and his cheeks are ever so ruddy, and maybe like his grandmother's been pinching them. Billy, you've grown so much since you were.
He's so grown in comparison.
How has he grown so much in an orphanage? Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what your diet would be like if you grew up in an orphanage. Are they feeding him steak? Is he eating ribeye steak for every meal?
the man has grown hilariously big. It is so good because the it's only in that one bit. I'll say that now. My favorite bit is like, oh, we need to hire the boy. It's like saying we don't hire boys, we hire men. And then he just walks in and like, oh, Billy's here now, and turns around and it's just like, oh, you're not a boy, you're actually a man. And it's just such a bizarre thing.
You could climb this. He's like a big tree of a man. You could climb this guy like a tree.
Yeah.
So yeah,
growth spurts. My God,
growth spurts all over. Exactly. So I guess before we get into it, you said before you had maybe like a little bit of trivia. Is it surrounding the controversial nature of this film?
Yes. So, the movie is widely controversial for the fact that it's basically mostly due to how it was advertised. If anyone's seen the poster for this, it's a very famous poster of seeing Santa Claus. It's basically a Santa Claus coming out of a chimney, just the arm holding an axe, and I think the tagline was like, it's basically you like sort of like you thought Halloween was bad, now try and survive Christmas, right? And it's that kind of thing, right? And so this basically, particularly on the TV spots and posts, really promoted the idea of the killer is dressed as Santa Claus, right? Or the idea, or people misinterpreting the idea that the killer is Santa, right? And so things like, and then you got things like the PTA and a whole bunch of people were starting to literally picket outside of cinemas, playing this out, saying Santa's not a murderer. Remove this from our screens. It's going to ruin Christmas for children, right? It was primarily like this. This is the thing, though. This isn't the first ever kind of movie that did this. There were other films before that had killer Christmases, like Black Christmas, and also things like Christmas Evil was another one. There's a whole bunch of other movies.
Christmas Evil, yeah, I was going to mention that. That came before this as well, didn't it?
Exactly. But this one, I think, is because of how it's marketed at saying like, hey, this is Santa doing the killing, or this dress as Santa Claus, right? Properly.
The Christmas Evil poster is like a hand-drawn, like lovely, cheery Santa with an axe in his hand and what could potentially be body parts in a bag, or maybe not body parts. But,
yeah, but it's just as bad.
It's just as bad, if not worse, because it shows Santa's face. At least with Silent Night, Deadly Night, it's just like an arm.
But I think it's because that leads to be with a more suggestive, or more the idea that this was something that was being played a lot on television adverts during the time. Like there was a lot of TV adverts for this, so a lot of episodes. For unlike something like Christmas Evil, that probably had its own underground following. This was appearing on TV, so parents noticed this.
I see.
And so that's where we got the picketing and so on and so forth and everything else. In response to this, basically, you had several things where things like TriStar Pictures, who were the original distributors before they had to pull out and do something else with it, removed all ads for it a week after the release of the movie. So it's like, we're not promoting this after this now. We're now having to remove all advertisements for this movie because it was causing so much controversy. And it oddly enough, it made even more so. There were people starting to, again, it's sort of a little bit like, when the video nasties were coming out, people were sort of just getting it out of context. They haven't really watched it. They would just sort of just saying, oh, it's this. And so loads of people coming out there. And also then people doing negative reviews of the movie at the time, people thinking like, again, it's cynical, it's nasty and all that kind of stuff. So it became really controversial in that sense. However, obviously, when it came later on, like in the UK, for example, UK had a very similar thing. They were unsure what to do with it. To the point that it never really got a certification from the BBFC for the longest time, and its sequel was denied it at around the time for video, so it never really actually had that. It was refused to make cuts to make it an 18. But here's the interesting thing: apparently, Arrow Video actually submitted the film for classification again, and finally they were able to get it as an 18. So thank Arrow Video for having this officially pulled as an 18. But there have been edits ever since then to play this movie now. There is a R-rated version and there is an unrated version. I think the one I saw recently again, which I saw on Amazon Prime, was the unrated version, because you can tell because there's some really grainy footage in between some of the really sharp footage.
I watched it on Amazon Prime as well, and I'm so glad you say that, because I for the longest time was like, have I pressed something and changed the change the settings, but
No,
no, it was like,
that's the unrated version.
so that's obviously the only shots that they've got of those particular parts, I guess. So basically, it goes from being fairly high definition to suddenly these really grainy, almost like VHS quality,
Yeah.
shots, doesn't it? And it kind of bounces back and forth between it quite a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah. So it goes back and forth to it to make it feel like the unrated version, and so on and so forth. And that's the thing is like Anchor Bay also did this, and Shout Factory also found a lot of this uncut footage and try to put them in from the original negatives, but it was very unsuccessful to find the original negatives of these things, so it had to be from pirated forms. So
no way.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So that's why our version of it was kind of dirty. Basically,
pirating works in some way for I mean,
conservation.
Oh wow, yeah, it did kind of feel like that. Sort of, you were watching something that was a little bit wrong. The fact they kept going back and forth between this, and everything was kind of like cut up a little bit, I guess.
Yeah.
Wow, that's fascinating. That is, yeah.
So that's the kind of thing. It led to now there isn't the one which is all clean was the R-rated cut. Everything else with extra bits and body parts and blood and guts, all the fun stuff basically is the one that's a bit rough around the edges. And because they can't find the negatives, it's almost impossible to find a clean version of this movie in most places. Because they say like, right, we're going to do some circulation. We definitely need, if this movie is going to be about, we need to cut things up in order to make it sustainable for other countries. So that's why you got the R-rated version. And then obviously now when we get older, as movies get older, most of the time, unless it's genuinely like incredibly offensive, a lot of movies kind of just, or the uncut version of most movies are now reaching at least an 18 now, or even a 15 in some cases. So that's what's fascinating about it. This movie with controversial stuff. No, I wouldn't even call it that controversial. It's just misunderstood. But it started picketing. People started to see it, and here's the thing: people started being more curious about it because people saying it's offensive, it's awful, it'll ruin Christmas. And if you're like 15 or 16, and someone says, "Don't watch this movie, it'll ruin Christmas," of course you're going to bloody go and have a check.
Go and watch it. Yeah, exactly. If things are getting picketed, you're just like, "Oh my god, what's that? Getting picketed? I'm there. Get me there." Not to do the picketing, but to walk past the picketers and say, "Come on, let's go and check this out."
Yeah,
all publicity is good publicity. It would seem
exactly.
Them's the rules.
And
it's weird because I wouldn't necessarily say this was particularly bad, but I guess for 1984, you could kind of understand why. Santa being thought of as this jolly fella. I was going to say of ruddy red cheeks, but luckily Billy's got those ruddy red cheeks as well. I know.
Naturally, natural.
He's a natural Santa Claus. Is it to do with like murdering nuns as well? Because I'm sure that could be frowned upon.
To a degree, but I think it's more the idea that literally at the halfway point, it's Santa Claus doing all these murders and it's ruined, and and then not like. Well, they're genuinely quite nasty and mean-spirited to a degree. So I can imagine how some people are going, that's no, thank you, basically.
Yeah, because also like there's definitely those moments where you're like, is he going to kill a kid?
It happens twice. He's going, he's going to murder a child, and it's like, oh, no,
he's going to straight up kill a kid, and in a way, I mean. It's a very like tragic film in a way, isn't it? Like it's easy to look at this film and think Santa Claus on a killing spree, ha ha ha, take that, eat shit, Christmas is ruined. But it is a very like sad film because like a kid witnesses his parents get killed, which gives him PTSD and a adverse fear of Santa Claus, and he essentially becomes the very monster he has spent his whole life being terrified of. And in a way, we have spoken on this podcast before about how films represent generational trauma, but he like passes that trauma on to like other children. And I know, of course, this spawned sequels. I think there's 4 sequels, aren't there?
Yes.
Where I haven't seen those, but I'm assuming that's explored in a way because it even ends on a moment in this film where you're like, he's the next one.
Very obviously, yeah.
Obviously, yeah. But in a way, it is a sad film because I'm like, this kid has spent his whole life growing up in an orphanage, trying to get over this trauma, and he's got himself a job, and he's even got like a love interest, and then it just all comes crashing down like in one night. And yeah, he passes that trauma on to other children who
Yeah.
see him as that same evil Santa that he saw.
Mm.
And it's horrible, really. Like, it is a genuinely tragic film. I felt incredibly sorry for not just Billy, but also everyone else involved. I was like, oh, it's really horrible.
And that's it. I agree to a point with that. The movie is very tragic, and it's literally like it's a villain origin story, right? This is quite literally what it's a villain's origin story.
Mm.
Especially with, probably for me, weirdly, the scariest scene in the whole movie isn't all the murder, is Grandpa.
Oh yeah, Grandpa. Yes, terrifying Grandpa. What's his
Grandpa's
problem?
terrifying. The scene happens there when, obviously you get a very young Billy going to see Grandpa, who for most people are not talking. He's not talking to them. He's like genuinely like, oh, he's going for Alzheimer's. He's not talking about them. Personally, I feel like he's basically sick and tired of his family and just doesn't want to talk to them.
Yeah,
Which,
he's like, get me in a home, get me in a mental institution, because I'm sick to death of you lot going on at me every day. I just want to chill out.
yeah.
You got 2 kids running around my feet, I just want to enjoy my retirement.
And
Give me a
then
break.
yeah, it literally feels like it's break because it's really funny because the moment everyone else leaves, like Billy, it's like, don't worry, it's fine. He won't do anything because he hasn't done anything in front of us. And then he just turns around, he smiles, and he winks. He's like back to normal. It's like, oh, great. And then he starts talking to him. It's like, Santa, it's really funny. It's really bizarre. He looks at him going, Grandpa, you don't talk. It's like, oh, I'm totally willing to talk to you and traumatize you by saying that. It's horrifying because he literally snaps at him almost in a weird way. So like, have you been a good boy? It's like, have you been a good boy all year? Well,
It
you
makes
better
a
run,
lot
boy.
makes a lot of this stuff incredibly sinister. It makes you realize how sinister these sort of things are, which is like,
Yeah.
have you been a good boy all year? Otherwise Santa won't come down the chimney if you're not a good boy. And it's
Nope.
almost like gaslighting your kids into behaving all year so that
Yeah.
whether they're going to get presents or not. And it's kind of putting a really sinister twist on
Yeah.
that.
And here's the thing: it's not like oh, Santa's not going to drop down and give you presents. Like Santa will punish you, and that is terrifying. Like once a year, if you've been naughty just once, Santa will come down the chimney and punish you, and he will not tell you what the punishment is until and the thing is, Santa's very vague about Grandpa's very vague about this, saying like,
Mm.
oh, he doesn't tell you how he's going to punish him until
No.
the scene afterwards when they're all driving back and you get the whole like robbery slash rapist slash
This guy
murderous Santa.
This guy's an absolute nut job, this Santa. Okay, right, okay.
Mm.
So before we sort of dive
Yeah,
headlong into the plot, I'll just kind of
yeah.
mention that so we got the cast is Robert Brian Wilson, it plays Billy
Mm.
Chapman, age 18. There was also an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old Billy Chapman.
Yeah.
And then there's his brother, Ricky. Like there's a
Ricky.
14-year-old version of a 4-year-old because there's a 10-year jump, isn't there?
Yes.
And then we've got Lily Chauvin, Mother Superior, I guess you'd say evil nun.
Evil nun.
Gilmer McCormick is Sister Margaret. Nice nun.
Nice nun.
And then there's
Yeah.
like Britt Leach plays Mr. Sims, who's the boss at this toy shop. There's Pamela, and a few other like sort of minor characters. There's a policeman who comes into it later on as well.
Yeah.
There's a poor Santa man, father, like a priest in a Santa outfit, gets shot in the back. Unlucky.
Yeah.
So yeah, what we obviously covered just now was that it starts off in 1971, and it's 5-year-old Billy Chapman. They visited a nursing home. His apparently catatonic grandfather says all the stuff we've already discussed.
Yeah.
When they leave, but bearing in mind, the quickest visit ever, right? Because it seems like they have to drive a fair way to get there.
Seems like hours.
Because Billy's like, "Are we there yet?" And when they arrive, I think they fill out some paperwork, which is like, "You can keep him. You can keep him." And then they leave straight away. It's like, Jesus Christ, sit with him for a bit. I don't know. So yeah, the whole traumatic event is that there's a criminal dressed in a Santa suit. He robs a liquor store for $31.
Yeah, and he literally says like $31. What a jip! Like he's like he did this basically murdered someone for something very cheap.
Yeah, I don't know if he would have killed the guy, but he did. Well, I say that, but he kills Billy's parents fairly straight up. I don't think he would have killed the guy, but the other guy's got a gun, isn't he? So he kind of just shoots him. And yeah, of course, when they're driving home, they see a lovely Santa who appears to be broken down at the side of the road. Santa's just waving like a jolly old fella, and they go, "Oh, Santa Claus, stop!" But at this point now, Billy has kind of made the transition from being excited about Santa
to be terrified of Santa,
to be immediately terrified about Santa. He's like, "No, leave him alone, you twat!
He's evil. He's going to punish me, obviously." Which is that's actually really weird and very kinky to say from a child. Say, "Oh, that guy's going to punish me." Jesus, please stop.
The word punishment becomes very, very prevalent in this film.
A lot.
Yeah, it's just crazy to think that like that interaction, that one sort of interaction he had with his grandfather, has obviously stayed with him for so long, gets cemented. I guess just because of what he witnesses, the terrible, terrible crime that he witnesses.
Yeah, and there's also the fact that the idea is that because as a kid you're never really told what Santa is properly. Like you say, like, oh, he's a man, you describe him as long as he's, and you know, as a kid you think, oh, white beard, red suit, instantly Santa Claus. Not like anyone could do this, basically. So he automatically thinks this is what Santa is. Santa is this murderous maniac who punishes people.
And he can get into your house. You come down your chimney. If you haven't got a chimney, he's got a magic key. Let him into anyone's house, and he'll fuck you up. Apparently,
pretty much.
So this Santa isn't playing around, because he doesn't even keep up the sort of game of he just wants someone to give him a lift, because somebody says, "Oh, do you just his mum says, oh, do you need a lift somewhere? Do you need help?" And he's like, "Oh, actually, I'm just gonna fuck you all up."
It's awful.
Pulls the gun out. Yeah, it's terrifying, because Billy like ducks down as well, which is pretty horrific. There's a baby as well. There's another thing. There's a baby
Ricky.
And the whole time during this, I was just like, won't somebody please think of the baby?
Would somebody please think of the children?
Somebody please think of the baby. I mean, luckily, probably too young for the trauma to kick in and turn him into a killer. At least I started to think about.
Yeah.
But yeah, tries to drive away. Criminal like shoots through the windscreen, kills the dad, and then in that moment is when Billy kind of like gets out of the car, runs away, and sort of hides in some bushes.
Yeah.
Not very good bushes either, like really see-through. Sort of you
could see but apparently that saved him still, because instead of doing that, then goes to the mum instead. And it's kind of nasty with the mum, pulls her out, rips her top up so there's boobs out. So that's added even more things to it. So now not only is Santa violent, he's also a sex pest, which makes it even more traumatic when you think about what happens later. And
this is the thing, that there's a lot of boobs in this film as well. And I feel like the way sort of Billy sees nudity and sex, because obviously there's a moment later in the orphanage as well where he kind of witnesses something. He sort of there's like a connection between that and the sort of Santa evil that really does mess with him.
It basically ruins. I mean, there's a lot of things. We're going to go to the next bit later, which I think is technically, I feel like the moment where the trauma really fucking kicks in. But it's really ruined a lot of things that, you know, someone of that age and more will be exploring, things such as, you know, relationships, sexuality, a holiday. It just ruins that kind of vibe for him. Because obviously when that happens, the Santa's saying, "Where are you, you brat?" And then never finds him, fades off into the darkness, and then suddenly years later we're in the orphanage, and it's like, wow.
So basically mum and dad both dead, but Billy and Ricky survived. I was worried for a second what evil Santa was going to do to the baby, because the baby was crying quite loud, like baby Ricky. And I thought the Santa was going to turn around, and I don't know, I didn't know what he was going to. I thought he'd drive away, you know. But pretty horrific.
No, it seems like this Santa won't be that low, I guess. But Jesus,
maybe just
awful.
Yeah, it's pretty horrific. And then the first time jump. There's two time jumps. So the first time jump is over 3 years. Takes us to 1974. Billy's 8, Ricky's 4.
Yes.
And it's Christmas in an orphanage, and then it's run by Mother Superior, who's like very strict disciplinarian nun.
Yes.
Who beats children. There's a lot of belting, isn't there?
A lot of belting, and not just the kids as well. Just beats up anyone. Like, she generally is a fan of capital punishment, and that kind of like, you disobey God, you get the rod. Basically, it's that vibe. It's like
a very catchy rhyme there.
Put that on a t-shirt. But yeah,
have you disobeyed God? I don't think
so. Get the rod.
Get the rod. Oh, for fuck's sake, not again. Not the rod.
It's awful. But yeah, so we get back to it. And one thing I've noticed already, something I've noticed which makes me kind of laugh a little bit, because clearly they have to get 3 different actors to play Billy, is the haircuts change hilariously. So the first one is a bowl cut. This one is literally a mullet. I mean, Billy here has a mullet.
Nice.
Which is very distracting, me personally. But Billy at this time is like, he's quiet, he's reserving himself because he's still going through all that kind of stuff, and he's just figuring out. And it's Christmas time, and Mother Superior's goal almost is to say like him being traumatized by Christmas is a stupid thing, despite her and all the other nuns knowing his history, and like knowing his history, and Mother Superior going, this is nonsense. I can beat him up enough to love Christmas, which is
tough love, and it always works, that's what I think. When I'm scared of something, I just think someone just beat me until I say, no, I'm actually all right with it.
Just get the rod. Just get the rod.
Just get the bloody rod.
Get the rod.
It's pretty insane. And the fact that she kind of talks about punishment as well.
Yeah.
Is obviously it's really struck a chord with him, and the way he sees Santa Claus as punishing him. Now he's being punished in this orphanage, and not just that, but then he also does witness some sexy time between one of the nuns. It is one of the nuns, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one of the nuns, and it seems to be like one of the other. Well, like probably like I think someone like and their boyfriend that they never get to like properly introduce. But it's kind of. It's the gardener. It's the gardener. It's the butler. No, it's something like that.
And she got the rod as well, but it was slightly different.
She got the rod too. Well, in 2 ways than one by the sound of things. But she totally got 2 ends of the rod. Where the thing is,
Jesus,
2 ends of it.
It's a double ender.
Ass to ass. Sorry, if anyone got that joke, well done. But yeah, it's kind of like, no, but honest, this scene actually, again, it shows how this movie has moments where it's trying to be quite clever and quite smart with it. Like when basically what's happening is like Mother Superior tells Billy to go, and I think Billy's like, go and do something quickly, or do the thing, and then here's some very obviously sexy noises, walks down the hallway, and there's a really nice shot, very cleverly done, with the light going through the keyhole and lighting up his eye, and it's really cleverly shot, nice.
Yeah.
But then seeing all these close-ups of like just breasts and butts being grabbed and being fondled, and lots of tongue action. Before Mother Superior, hearing this, walking down, go, what are you doing, Billy? Opens the door, and you can hear her going, God damn you! You've been burnt in hell! Closes the door and starts.
I can't think of anything.
Screaming.
I can't think of anything that would make me lose the mood or come out of the moment quicker than an angry, screaming nun just bursting in and going, "A little kid saw that!
You bastard!
You bastard! Put it away."
But it's the bit after that that really cements the idea of now linking sex as being naughty, because the idea is saying like, Mother Superior goes and sees Billy, like, what did you see? Nothing, Mother Superior. And says like, do you know what you saw? I don't know what I saw. And then her idea is what they done was being very naughty, and so they had to be punished for being naughty, right? Yeah. So now, as an 8-year-old, also having trauma of Santa Claus, now has a trauma of sex, because thinking sex equals being naughty, despite it being whether it's, being, even if it's sexually consensual. It's like, no, you can't fall in love and do sexy times with someone. That's naughty. So Mother Superior fucked it up even more. This is where I feel like, yes, the Santa Claus bit was very traumatic, but this really cements it even more that, okay, now we're really obscuring his idea of what naughty is. And that is going to really make it worse later on in the next time jump.
And obviously there's that connection as well, because the Santa like ripped the clothes off his mum as well. So he's seen that nudity and violence sort of like that go hand in hand. And the fact that it's naughty and all the punishment stuff that's coming into it. And also he gets it completely wrong. She goes, what did you see? And he says, nothing. And then she goes, no, was it? She goes, what did you see? Nothing. And then what you thought you saw was this, and he sort of says, oh no, I don't know. Basically he just talks himself around in circles, When he should have just gone, didn't see anything. No comment, no comment, no comment.
No comment, please. I did not see boobage. I did not see the boobage.
No.
But and then leading up to this point, go to the next part, which is now saying like, okay, it's Christmas. It's I think it's whether it's Christmas Day or Christmas Eve, and all the kids are getting presents now. And you can also see, like, obviously you got the good nun, the nice nun, who is it's the very stereotypical nice nun. It's like it's like the Miss Honey in like Matilda nice, that kind of vibe. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
It's generally nice, and saying like basically the only voice of reason in this entire movie, because everyone else has logic throws out the goddamn window, says like, do you think being around things like Christmas and Santa Claus is not going to help him? She actually says at one point when it's all happening, it's like, of course he'll be better after Christmas. He's always better after Christmas. It's always the month of December where he feels this way because of his trauma. Like, it's almost like, Mother Superior, are you this thick, woman? Get it into your skull. She's not helping.
It's like a generational thing, I think, where she's grown up, sort of raising kids in orphanage just exactly the same way this whole time. Has no idea how to deal with anyone who's particularly got PTSD or trauma or anything like that.
Yeah.
Which is strange and annoying for somebody who like works in an orphanage.
Works with children,
Works with children, yeah.
So it's like this is partly the reason why I both like this movie to a degree, but also I feel like I really get angry at it. It's a movie literally about trauma, but doesn't, and gives you sympathy for somebody to a degree, but also doesn't really show the genuine process of someone generally going for. All you're hearing is seeing someone generally getting worse at it, and you're like, if someone just walked in and just stopped this, anyone with any common sense would stop this wouldn't happen. But everyone here is an idiot or an asshole, and it's basically making everything worse.
But I know obviously this is back in 1984 as well, but I'm sure there are some parallels to modern life as well. But sometimes people who are in these sort of positions aren't fully qualified or fully well versed enough in certain things, or there's a stigma attached to other things where they can't, they kind of like muddle through these things and mismanage trauma, mismanaged trauma. So it is frustrating to see, especially when we see the way this film's going, because we know the way this film's going, whether we've seen it before or not. We know exactly what's going to happen, and it is kind of frustrating because how often do you watch a movie and you've seen it dozens of times, but there's a particular moment in it where things flip and go a different direction, and even though you've seen it dozens of times, part of you still wants it to work out differently.
Yes,
you know exactly what's happening, exactly what's coming, but part of you's like kind of like bargaining with the movie, where it's like, if only one person said this, or if only one person did that, we could have avoided all of this crap.
100%. I think that's where my frustration lies with this movie. It's almost like this sense of like weird. It's like it's a cynical approach to this, or this misinformed version of trauma. Because after this, the next bit is like Mother Superior said, like, oh, by Christmas, I was like, oh, by the end of the day, Billy will sit on Santa's lap. You trust me. This Mother Superior's going, you trust me here, like almost like she's like, the work is done. He's fine now. Santa obviously arrives. He is not going to sit on Santa's lap. He is terrified, punches the Santa in the nose, and runs up.
What a punch as well. What a punch.
Good punch for an 8-year-old. Broke his nose, shuffle. Mate.
Bang. Wait, 5 knuckle shuffle, something different. Have you seen that viral video of that little kid like saying he's going to punch Santa's beard off? He's like,
no, I don't think I've seen that.
He's angry at Santa for being told he's not a good boy. He's like, oh, punch his beard off. He's like a little Cockney kid as well, so which makes it quite funny. Oh, Santa's not being very nice to me. I'll punch his beard off. It reminded me of that. I thought if he would have just punched his beard off, then it would have been perfect. But blood is his nose.
Proper blood is his nose, like probably breaks it, which good hook. But again, by the end of this leads up to the end of this time period where he's running up again, curled up in the corner, crying, terrified, scared even more so because he's now hearing the sound of Mother Superior going up the stairs to beat him again.
Jesus, yeah.
because you didn't sit on Santa's lap. There was a bit even before that we missed as well, which is even more traumatic, where he's having a night terror of some sort. Like he's having a nightmare.
Yeah.
And so Mother Superior's way of approaching this is to tie him up to the bed.
Yeah, that's horrific, isn't it? That is just like, oh, what could make this any worse? Well, if we tie him up, let's get a cardboard cut out of Santa in the corner.
Yeah.
Well, this will sort him out. It'll be fine tomorrow.
It's so frustrating. It's so annoying. It's so upsetting, and so to see that happen, because it literally is like Most Superior. It's just pure evil. It's even it's so evil at this point. Like it's almost cartoonish.
Yeah.
And leading up to the point, and again, this happens on several things. Every time there's a time jump, there's a freeze frame, which as a fan of someone from the 80s, I do have a little bit of like you've done freeze framing. But it's like freeze frame and then cuts to 10 years later. It becomes that.
So 10 years later, it's 1984. We pick up with Billy in spring.
Yes.
And essentially he's leaving the orphanage, starting a normal life.
Yes.
And he gets a job as a stock boy at a local toy store. Sister Margaret helps. She goes ahead and says, look, I know it's normal practice for someone to come in and deliver a CV, but you're not going to say no to a nun, are you? Let's be honest. Sorry, God.
No, but there's also this is what bit we talked about before, where he literally goes and says, like, no, we don't hire boys here. We only hire men. This is a very manly job. Then, lumberjack Billy walks in looking like a giant haystacks, looking huge and muscular, and he turns around, and in a weird way, when I first saw it, I didn't pick it up, but this time around I picked it up going, it's a weird, bizarrely, oddly sexual vibe happening. He looks looks him up and down going, like he's 100%. Like, you're not a boy, you're a man.
I was thinking that completely. It's almost like his jaw drops, the manager, which is a bit strange. But Billy is like a wardrobe of a man,
He's so big. He's so big.
He's ever so big. So who can blame him? I'm not blaming the Mr. Sims, whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Just because of the age gap. That was the only reason I thought that was a bit.
Yeah.
But clearly, he's made for the job, Billy, because then we get like what I can only describe as a lovely montage, which are essentially Billy's first few months in the job. And you know what? Everyone's loving him. He's helpful. He's great at his job. His colleagues love him. I think we get a couple of shots of Mr. Sims kind of watching him from afar and going,
yeah,
he's a good lad.
That's my sexy boy. That's my sexy mad boy.
That's my sexy 18-year-old Billy. Initially, I was like, we don't know our boys here. And he's like, but man boys, we do.
Bad boys, we do. Especially if they look like Billy. Oh, God. But
I think maybe this whole thing is a love story between Mr. Sims and Billy, because he even dresses him up as Santa, as if it's like his depraved fantasies come to life.
If you do it that way, that makes it even kinkier and weirder, because eventually it's like revenge against the person who forced them into a kinky Santa outfit. But
which is fair enough, I think. Revenge on that.
That montage, by the way, is very random to me, because it's the only part of the movie that seems, I know it's going to sound awful to say, but this movie is predominantly a downer. This movie rarely, if ever, could you say, will lift your spirits up. This is the only part of the movie where there seems to be like everyone's happy. There's one montage, because the music's even perky and jolly, like you said, and it's like the rest of the movie's a downer, but this is like, and it's the only time that ever happens in the movie.
Yeah. I kind of enjoyed it though, and it kind of also made me nostalgic for like toy stores in the 80s.
Yeah.
Because the one bad thing about this toy store is the like mural painted on the windows. There's like no natural light coming in, and maybe that was the point, because they probably filmed the exterior somewhere and then the interior on set. But it just looked kind of awful. But yeah, I was constantly just looking at all the toys in the background. I think there was a Jabba the Hutt lunchbox at some point. There was loads of like action figures and various other like toys from the 80s that were recognized. So yeah, if you've got any sort of level of nostalgia for toy shops in the 80s, watch this film and kind of just look at the background. It's pretty cool.
It does feel nice to see that kind of thing, because I remember, well, for me in the night, it's me more the 90s, but going to Toys R Us and going to all that kind of stuff, going, oh, look at all these. Ooh, it does give you that little bit of a little kick to it. But the thing is, all that kind of love and joy instantly gets put on halt when after the montage, you start hearing a couple of characters speak, which automatically put me off slightly. And it's now Christmas and Santa's in town, and okay.
Yeah.
And this is also then leads to a slight gripe. Another gripe I have about this movie is that, like I said, there are some people who are just genuinely just evil, right? And they're just characters. Some characters are just stereotypically just evil or assholes. To the point we're saying, like, come on, give me someone who I can sympathize with. Yes, you've got you've got the girlfriend-ish character, the one that Billy sort of fantasizes about. But even then, it's not entirely sympathetic. It's kind of just like it's almost like a bit of a nothing burger. Because who's that guy who's also in the back of the warehouse? Who's
Joe Pesci.
Yeah, the Mr. Joe Pesci ripoff guy. What an asshole!
Who's that guy supposed to be? I don't understand. He seemed to be in the stockroom constantly, either drinking or smoking, and kind of just giving Billy shit. And I thought, what does he actually do? I don't understand.
Because I'm thinking, like, is it his supervisor? But it's not, because Mr. Sims seems to be in charge of all this. So who is this asshole character who's literally just being an asshole? And it frustrated me so much, because why do we have this character here? You're the worst.
I don't understand how anything gets done in that shop apart from Billy.
Billy's the only one who does the work.
Mr. Sims seems like a little bit of a nutbox. There's like a lady, like a woman. I don't know what her role is, but she seems a bit away with the fairies. There's a technical term.
Yeah.
And then it feels like shit Joe Pesci, and then Pamela. I've got some weird sort of relationship, seems to blossom out of nowhere. It's not even a relationship, is it? It's kind of feels like just it feels like a Christmas fling type of thing. A Christmas fling, when it's the Christmas party, suddenly someone that maybe you hadn't thought of as being your type up until then. As soon as you've got a couple of Baileys down you, maybe you're thinking it's Christmas time. Maybe a snog would maybe a snog, but it does unfortunately go a little bit further than that, because I don't know about you, but I've never wanted to be titted up in a.
Titted up in the back of a warehouse, yeah?
Titted up in the back of a warehouse by Joe Pesci. Oh, God, Joe,
what a kink. What a kink. That's someone's kink.
He's like 4'10" as well, this guy.
It's so tiny. But yeah, it doesn't, it basically shows that, there's no one there really that I get along, so... And I think this is also partly the problem with the film for me. It's like there's not a lot of characters get along. Everything just seems to be this pessimistic just vibe, and it's such a downer, and it hurts me to get through it. There's one really cool scene that happens in between this stuff, because obviously he, once Billy first sees Santa Claus and goes like, no, he literally falls over and is trying to get his composure. There's a bit where he's fantasizing about Pamela, and they're having like the fantasy sex scene, and then literally Santa Claus comes around and literally kills them by gutting them, basically. In a really graphic looking thing. I'm surprised how gory it looked.
Yeah. I was just before that as well. They sort of unfurl this banner, and rather than Billy kind of going that like scared of Santa, he kind of stares at Santa as if to say, "That's my fucking arch nemesis. That is right there, Santa Claus. I'm not happy about that." I'm not happy about that. I'm gonna fucking
just imagine that stairs. He's suddenly it's got
also the animatronics are like quite creepy, aren't they? You've got this kind of Santa who does a weird sort of like lean, like
it's great. Or it's great having all those animatronic Santa decorations and all this stuff, because that he leads into, well, that's half of that's in the trailer, isn't it? The original trailer is all these weird Christmas ornaments that do weird stuff in between scary slashing and murder and so on. And it's genuinely creepy. As a style choice, well done. It's creepy having the nodding Santa and like the Nutcracker and doing all this weird shit, genuinely uncomfortable stuff. Which later on, when the thing finally kicks off, really, after quite literally, I'm not joking, I've measured this, at exactly halfway through the movie is when literally 45 minutes, like down to the T, Billy snaps. And it's like, literally halfway through the movie, he finally snaps. I've
had enough now. I've had a guts full of this. I've been pushed to my absolute limit. And it's understandable, because I feel like if your phobia was something else, phobia is probably not the right word, but if your phobia was something else, how often would you be exposed to it? But with Santa, like if you genuinely had a phobia of Santa, there's a whole couple of months of the year which are a complete write-off because he's everywhere.
He's
He's on
everywhere.
TV. He's in the shops.
He's everywhere. He's literally everything everywhere all at once. He's quite literally what Santa is. And here's the thing that really kicks him off, because basically the guy who was supposed to play Santa originally couldn't make it.
Oh no.
And so they have to get Billy in, because Billy's the only one who, who will fit in the suit and is up for it and blah, blah, blah. Well, not up for it at all. It's like basically
who do they have coming in originally as Santa who could fit in the suit? Andre the Giant?
I have no idea. Giant Haystacks, a professional wrestler, basically, is the only one who could fit in that suit.
I feel like Mr. Sims kind of guilt trips Billy into it, didn't he? And blackmails him into it. You'd do anything, wouldn't you? You'd do anything for this shop.
You would do anything for me, you sexy mad lumberjack boy, you.
Lumberjack boy, yeah. I gave you this job. If anything, you owe me. You owe me something.
You owe me. It's surprisingly like creepy in that sense. It's like, you could do anything for me, right? Stop it, please.
Oh, yeah, I would. Did you dress up in a Santa outfit for me? Probably. That's probably weird. I'll be totally honest. That's probably the one thing I wouldn't do. I've never explained it to you, but again, this is another thing where we kind of think part of us wants Billy to just go, no, I don't want to because of this. But then obviously, I think we also understand why he wouldn't say outright why that kind of.
He's kind of put in a position where he's worried about losing his job. Be like, he's in the position like, I don't want to lose my job. I don't want to do this. This is my first ever job. I don't want to lose it. So he gets into the Santa suit. And like we kind of mentioned before, there's a really creepy scene with kids sitting on his lap, and just he's literally just shaking the children.
He's like whispering like sinisterly.
Yeah.
What does he say? I can't remember.
Well, he basically says things like, have you been good? Have you been naughty? If you're going to get naughty, it's like he's saying, like, if you're naughty, I will punish you. And it's like, I know of ways that can be punishing. It's like, Jesus Christ, you have literally lost your marbles.
And all of the parents around are going, and he's good with kids. Look how good he is with kids. He's great.
No, it's literally the bit that, he's so good with the kids. He's literally shaking a child. It's like,
the kid's
get on the ball.
The kid's face is terrified. They're like, Eddie good. He's terrified that kid to silence. He's great.
Oh, he's so good with the kids. He shuts them the fuck up.
That's what you want. That's what you want. Right? I think that's we only see like one kid on his knee, don't we? But
but we get the vibe like this is what he's been doing, basically. And then after that, it's a Christmas party, which is like, all bits, and this is where finally we've got, like we mentioned this already, Joe Pesci and Pamela go out and do a bit of sexy time in the warehouse. It goes a little bit too far.
Yeah, it goes a bit too far. So they essentially have a Christmas party, get the beers out in the store, which makes me think Mr. Sims can't be asked to even put a little bit of budget aside for them to go out for a meal or a drink somewhere else. He's like, we'll just get tanked right up here.
We'll just get hammered here. Yeah.
I wonder how often that kind of happened, because that also happens in. What else is happening? I don't know. I feel like it happens a lot in the 80s where like people kind of have after work drinks like in the place where they're working, like in the store they're working.
Yeah, it's more like, oh, by the way, I got a bottle of this. Let's just drink it here.
Maybe it's a bit like Chopping Mall. It reminds me of that a little bit because they all stay in the bed shop, don't they? And but that's less of a party and more of just a place for them to cop off of each other. It
very much was. So the party's going on. And it's fine, really. Like, it's not like anything. It's like everyone's having some sherry. They're talking and sharing, like, the festive spirit. But obviously, Billy's not in the festive spirit. He doesn't like this. And the thing is, no one's fucking picking up on it, despite saying, like, oh, like Mr. Sims at one point goes and say, oh, your parents, your parents would be proud, and something for some dumb reason almost forgets that Billy has no kids.
No parents. Your parents would be proud of seeing you dressed up as Santa Claus. I think they'd love it.
Dead.
They'd absolutely love it. They're dead, and they were killed by a Santa. Oh yeah, but they wouldn't mind.
I know, it's literally that nonsense. And then
they actually all sing "We Wish You a Merry Christmas" as well.
Yes.
And it made me think. Do you realize how into the word "wish" some people get when they're singing "We Wish You a Merry Christmas"?
Wish you a Merry Christmas.
What is all that about? Why do people love that word so much?
I don't know why the word wish is like, maybe because it's just like, it sounds like a whoosh. So it's
some people really commit to it. I feel like I'm never the person who commits to it, but there's always one person when there's like a group of people singing it.
I'm always kind of imagining. I'm kind of imagining if you had a group of people, everyone just emphasize a different word every time. We wish you a Merry Christmas. 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 We wish you a Merry Christmas.
That gives a song, which I find pretty tedious at most times. That gives it a whole new lease of life.
It gives a whole new meaning. I can imagine that every line they just do, like they emphasize a different word of it. Go like, oh, I'm completely out of whack now. Ah, shit.
Good times. But yeah, so basically what happens is Pamela and Shit Joe Pesci get a bit handsy, both of them. Well, he gets handsy. And you know, it's taking it one step too far. I think if you're gonna have a work-based fling, a kiss is probably all right. Maybe a little bit of, I don't know, consensual fondling is also okay, but this goes 10 steps too far. Billy's obviously watching to see what kind of happened because, again, he's still got that curiosity about sex and maybe the fact he's dressed like a Santa as well kind of is...
Finally,
Probably, everything goes full circle. And it's when he witnesses Shit Joe Pesci rip open Pamela's top in a similar way that Killer Santa did to his mum, exposing her chest. So like pretty much that. But there's a whole moment where I am just kind of like, you kind of do want Billy to, you don't want him to snap, but you want him to intervene because essentially it's like a sexual assault that's happening. You think if he intervenes, then, you know, he'll be the hero, but he doesn't intervene in a way which can be deemed heroic.
Yeah, this is the first of many murders now, where it's again conveniently like really good, clever way of killing someone. Basically, there's fairy lights next to them, so he goes, you know, grabs Shit Joe Pesci, wraps fairy lights around him, and just strangles him. And again, because he's literally the size of a fucking house, just lifts him up with one arm, basically, like he's
Michael Myers' strength.
It's so horror serial killer-y kind of like strength, right? And
it's like he's been activated.
He's a sleeper agent this entire time. He's been the sleeper agent of Killer Santa until finally this sort of thing. Now he's like super powered. And this literally
Killer Santa.
And here is the thing that, again, now we get to the bit where now he's literally, now the next half, basically the entire half of the movie now is just him going on a murderous rampage. And there are two ways of thought you can think about this. Is one, oh, cool, look at all this murderous rampage. But also for me now, this is where I start thinking, like, if this was going to be like a proper, like, he's now become Santa Claus, his embodiment of Santa Claus, I think maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm putting way too much thought into this movie, which, you know, this edgelordy punchline, like, what a serial killer but Santa, right?
Yeah.
It's more would he have been maybe not killing some people? Because some people are naturally seeming nice. Like, for example, the moment he kills off Shit Joe Pesci, right? Instead of like checking on Pamela and seeing if she's okay, he murders her.
Yeah. But then is it because she immediately like thinks he's insane and says like, sure, you've saved me, but I hate you because you've just murdered somebody in front of me.
Yeah.
You're a murderer.
But then it's like, look, everyone in this movie is kind of a bad person or a bit creepy, but never to the extent that it deserves this level of death. Mr. Sims, we've been joking that he's a bit of a perv, but maybe not. Maybe just us really overthinking the fact that he really likes this man.
It was the 80s. I think everyone was a bit of a perv.
It was perv. But the idea is, like, when you look at him, it's like, well, does he deserve that level of murder? It's very bizarre. Like, not everybody in this movie deserves that level of murder.
I get what you're saying. It's almost like as soon as the insanity is triggered, he goes on a sort of a rampage, which is just killing people
for the sake of it,
no reason. For the sake of it, yeah, exactly. It's not like, and it's almost like you keep saying punish, punish, punish. They could have said, you know, he's punishing bad behavior, like I guess in a way, some people, maybe he kills her because the punishment is the fact that she was gonna seemingly look like she was gonna have sex with Shit Joe Pesci, and then it was like a sexual, even though it wasn't consensual at a push, it was a sexual scenario, and maybe he's seen both of those people in that sexual scenario as needing to be punished because he believes sex is wrong, naughty. And is that why he kills the couple as well, the babysitting couple? But then again, it doesn't explain some of the others, I know.
I mean, like the babysitting couple, like there's no connection to them to anyone in the movie. Like we're introduced to them quite literally at this point in time. There's no connection to Billy. Nothing happens. In fact, we don't even. Did he just literally just go into this house for no reason and just wanted to kill them? It's the reason why this movie I lose all. It's weird way. It's a movie that built up all this sympathy about trauma, and then halfway through, I lose all sympathy because yes, he snaps, but if he was literally doing the thing of being naughty or nice or being that kind of thing, I would say, okay, so this is literally the trauma kicking. No, this is the idea of he's now just snapped. He's going to murder literally randomers. And it just doesn't feel like any of it's deserved because we don't spend any time with some of these people long enough to feel like whether the only person that generally, there's only two people in the movie out of all the people we've interacted with that do deserve to get killed off. One was shit Joe Pesci because he's literally was an asshole the entire movie, and Mother Superior, who, spoiler alert, doesn't technically get killed off. So so there's the payoff. So everyone else is just literally it's almost like we need a body count. So let's murder everyone in unique, festive ways, though. Let's not lie. So, for example, like Mrs. Yeah.
And sorry, Johann. I was just gonna say it is kind of frustrating because I thought this film does really take its time with the character of Billy, giving him a backstory, helping us understand him and his trauma and what trigger him and all of these things, for it to only then just go, but now it's a Killer Santa movie.
It's almost the idea of like, oh, they forgot they were making a slasher movie and go, oh right, we're literally halfway through the film and there is no slasher murder yet. Okay, so full slasher mode now with no reason.
There's no real nobody tries to reason with Billy at any point either. There's no opportunity to reason with him or try and snap him out of it, which I was kind of hoping for. I thought if they could try and maybe bring him back.
Like Sister Margaret would have been great to have. Imagine a confrontation with him and Sister Margaret. Sister Margaret, no, I know what you're going through. I'm the only logical reason. I'm the only voice of reason here. Take off the Santa suit. You're not Santa. You are Billy. You're fine. You are not this. Give a hug. Drop an axe.
You're not Santa. The guy who killed your parents, he wasn't Santa. He is literally just a costume, and the weight that costume holds over you will be no more. Something like that. Who knows? And maybe in that moment, Billy doesn't commit a certain act of murder, and he kind of gets a redemption of sorts, even though, of course, he's going to be going down for murder. But I think it was lacking. I agree with you. I think it was lacking that.
Yeah, because look, not gonna lie, the deaths are fun. There's one woman who gets killed with a bow and arrow, which is awesome.
Why are they selling that bow and arrow in this toy
That's
shop?
lethal.
What's going on?
It's awful. You got the bow and arrow death, quite fun. You've got the babysitter couple, where she gets killed by having antlers through her, which is disgusting. Yeah. And there's a really creepy scene where the little girl comes out, and this is a bit we were saying, like, oh my God, is he going to murder a child? And it's have you been naughty or nice? And gives her a bloody box cutter.
Yeah, so he uses the box cutter to murder Pamela. Then he murders Mr. Sims with a hammer. And then Mrs. Randall is apparently the other one who's apparently a manager.
And that's the bow and arrow lady.
That's the bow and arrow lady, yeah. So yeah, and he just breaks into a nearby house, smashes the door in, finds Denise, who's topless, because as you
do, getting a little bit on with his, getting on with her boyfriend on the pool
getting on with
table.
her boyfriend who looks so much like Michael Cera.
It does.
It's unbelievable. He's got the same hair. He's got the same little demeanor, little weird way his chin tapers off into his neck. Those are the same guy, and I'm like, hang on a minute, Michael Cera, 20
time traveler. Michael Cera, time traveler.
And Cindy goes to get the cat in, topless. It seems really cold as well. I feel like you do wrap yourself up with something.
Grab a coat,
anything like that. But yeah, he smashes away into the house. This is the thing. How he manages to like have this big fight with Cindy and her boyfriend doesn't hear it. I guess he's got music playing.
Yeah,
also,
but
they're having sex on the pool table. I feel like, I mean, I don't want to give you too much information here, Johann, but I've never had sex on a pool table because I imagine bad for the knees, bad for like I feel like it would the felt, the green felt. It would cause all sorts of havoc with your naked body. Chafing, yeah.
Yeah, although I think I like the bit where it says like I think the boyfriend says 8-ball in corner pocket, and like, yeah,
he does say that. Yeah, he does say that.
Like, you know what? That's the only reason why we never have sex at the pool table, because you just want to have that one joke.
I'd do that joke, or I'd put chalk on the end of it.
Chalk it up, love.
Chalk it up, will you? Come on. Yeah, so
yeah.
that kind of happens. And how does he kill? Billy?
I think I can't remember, oddly enough. This is the point. Like, it's almost comes a blur.
Oh, frozen through a window.
Throws through a window, and all the glass gets thrown out.
For the first time, Billy gets like knocked on his ass a couple of times while he's trying to fight this guy.
Yeah,
which is kind of insane because the other guy's like a little a bit of a.
He's literally like a third of him. Like in terms of body mass, he's like a third of Billy the Lumberjack.
But maybe this proves it. Rey Mysterio was a good wrestler. He wrestled Brock Lesnar once. This is what we're saying. Anyone can take on Billy if they've got the moves. If they got the Hurricane Rana, they can fuck him up.
We need the speed. But yeah,
he slings him through a window like
hardcore, and all the glass, like chunks of glass, go into his face and everything else. And then there's the only time I genuinely laughed out of the murder, which was the sled bit, because again,
this was great. This was great. I like
this. Is what I was thinking. Like when you watch this movie the first time around, you're thinking, this is what it is. The entire movie's going to just be this, right? This is the kind of thing you want all the murders to be, right? You want all of it to be that, right? You want the entire movie, 90 minutes of these ridiculous over-the-top deaths where you got these two asshole bullies who go and like steal a sled. They go down the sled.
One of them looks like 45. I mean,
so old.
I'm just like, is this guy? Why are you still bullying kids like this? You're 45, and I thought, actually, I think he is a kid himself.
No, but what's really funny is like I think one of the other kids actually say like, it's like, are you a little old for sledding? He literally says something like that, as like, yeah, you're looking ancient, mate. And then that's the guy though, when he goes down again, Billy just magically turns up, but we don't know how he got here. Goes in front of him, punish, chops off his head with an axe. It was
so not only has he already got Michael Myers' strength, but he's also got Michael Myers' teleportation abilities, because he keeps appearing all over the place around this town.
Yeah,
and just fucking people up. But again, this is another perfect example where he could have gone, I'm going to kill all 4 of these kids, but he could have gone, oh, 2 of them been nice, 2 of them been naughty, kill the naughty ones.
Exactly. And then in a weird way, I'm not saying we'd be sympathetic a bit more, but at least we'd be more on board with it, because we're like, we know his motivation now. We know his motivation, which is he's purposely going out to kill naughty people. It's like, okay, it's again like it's like Jason Voorhees. Jason Voorhees, to a degree, is really killing people who are just supposedly being, bad, but but in his eyes, everyone's bad because his mum has taught him that everyone's bad, basically, right? Yeah. So that's the vibe. But here it's like there's no motivation for most of these deaths. The sled one has a bit of sense to it because it was a bully, but like again, we had no reason to see that Billy was even there at all.
Yeah.
Like Billy, it literally sounds like Billy just walking along, saw a kid in a sled and just chopped off his head.
Yeah. I mean, it is great, though, isn't it? So, obviously...
The head rolls. It's so good.
I think it's a really good reaction from his friend as well. Like, a really good blood-curdling scream. One kid goes down on his sled, perfectly fine. The other one goes down. Billy steps out with his axe, takes his head off, and then the sled arrives at the bottom of the hill with the decapitated body, and the head rolls down as well.
There's one shot that I can clearly see what they did there. One's basically, you can see the paper mache head, obviously, but then there's one shot which I can clearly see is they got they got the body in, but they got the head of the guy covered in snow, and you can see that's the one shot where you go like, that's definitely the guy covered. That's definitely the guy's head covered in snow. That's not the paper mache head because we've just seen it roll down beforehand. And that was great. Again, main reason is because it makes it. It has a little bit of sense, but the whole movie doesn't do that. I'm trying to figure out after this, it's daytime by this point. Like suddenly now, it's daytime now, and I'm not sure whether he murders anyone else, but he does murder. Well, he still murders a few more people.
It kind of really put the brakes on at this point. Like I felt like with probably my favorite scene, which was the sledding scene. It seemed to just really put the brakes on now, and I think even like this finale kind of felt a bit slow to me, despite the fact this is like an 85-minute movie or something like that.
It's about 80. It's like 85, 90 minutes. It's like it's not much at all.
No, and obviously this is where Sister Margaret gets involved with the police and basically tries to say that we need to stop this. And when she falls asleep at the station, one of the police officers says it's not good news. He's been committing these murders, but also he's been evading the police officers as well. And that is when Sister Margaret says, I know where he's going to go next. He's going to go to the orphanage. So the police head to the orphanage. We see the orphans all out in front of the orphanage playing, enjoying the snow. And I think we knew exactly what was going to happen here, didn't we?
And here's the thing. The moment we kind of knew what was happening here, but here's the thing again, like a police officer goes over, sees someone in a Santa Claus outfit, and because the Santa wasn't responding, shoots the Santa in the back. Now, here's the thing. I'm not sure we were ever introduced to this character beforehand, or I have no idea. Because this is, again, lazy writing. There's a bit where it says, like, it's like they say, like, we got him, sir, we've got him. And then, they're all in the car kind of thing. And Sister Margaret's like, oh, thank God, what a relief, we caught him. And the sheriff's like, I'm so sorry about this, but I'm so sorry you weren't able to reason with him. Then literally afterwards, like, the description is wrong. The man is in his 50s. And then we're literally introduced to a character that, oh, that is Father something. It was his time. It was his time this year to dress up as Santa Claus. It's like, yeah, but he didn't respond. Oh, of course he wouldn't. He's deaf. It's like, who is this? This is like,
should have introduced him earlier in the film. If we had a deaf sort of priest knocking about, it would have been that reveal would have been so much more impactful, wouldn't it? But
it's like this random schmuck we've never met before. We don't even see him properly. He's just a man in a suit. Apparently was a regular character that we'd ever get to see.
A regular character is that guy from down the road. Murdered. Also, these kids have now witnessed this is I'm going to keep a tally for this. Children at the orphanage have now seen one Santa shot in the back.
Yes.
One. Just remember that tally. Put that to one side. Remember that tally.
One.
Then the guy who shot him goes looking. He goes, there's like an outhouse, isn't there, which leads down some stairs, which I think is linked to the orphanage somehow, is it not?
Yeah. It's like it leads down to the cellar. It's like a tunnel that goes down to the cellar of the orphanage, I believe it is. And it's one of those things where, and that's where Billy turns up. But I love how it happens. Just like it's again magically kind of teleports, really.
Where's he been all night?
No idea. He's magical now. Santa
freezing out there.
Freezing cold, but don't worry, he's got Santa Christmas magic to protect him.
Because he does. Another thing I noticed when the police were looking for him, he kind of jumped down and hid like at the side of the road as well, and that was quite reminiscent, obviously, of when he hid from the Santa as well. He just loves hiding in bushes.
Yeah,
that's where he slept all night.
He just slept in the bushes. But here's the thing: like the movie is doing nods to his past, like we've done the whole thing and everything else, but it almost feels like the movie doesn't want to bother with that. Like the idea of him literally doing the things that's happened to him as a child, reliving his trauma, but now in the opposite role, could have been an incredibly deep, like genuinely like amazing character study on trauma and commercialism of Christmas. The idea that you can't escape Christmas, and what if you're traumatized by Christmas? You have a whole, like you meant, there's 2 months of the year you cannot escape from. This movie doesn't care at all. It doesn't care. And so it just says, where are the murders? So obviously so then that police officer gets brutally killed by an axe. Really good though, but good axe kill. Like it's a good bloody, nasty, gory wound, but it's like boom, and then literally like, again, no time to talk to this person because we barely met this guy.
Yeah, true.
And then
the police get introduced very late on as well, don't they?
Very do. They again, these characters who get killed off, we rarely get time to sympathize with them or think they're assholes or whatever. So all these deaths feel so empty. And now we're leading up to the final boss, basically. We are finally getting there. Basically, we're trying to get to the final boss battle. In a weird way, this is the thing that the whole movie's building up to. And it's kind of funny because the Mother Superior has literally told the kids, don't open the door. We're going to sing some Christmas carols or Ave Maria, and we're going to sing a whole bunch of Christmas songs, whatever it is, just to keep the kids distracted. And one kid, just being an idiot, sees Santa at the door and opens the bloody thing up, despite the fact that it's quite literally like, no, basically.
Santa, they've just seen a Santa murdered in front of their eyes. Now there's another Santa. And they're like, oh, it's fine, it's fine. Also, we should mention Mother Superior is now like in a wheelchair as well. So in terms of final boss, like, could anybody be less equipped to take on giant killer Santa Billy than Mother Superior with no rod and now in a wheelchair.
No rod and in a wheelchair. It feels like a little too late now to have that proper redemption arc of let's finally kill Santa. Like, let's finally kill Mother Superior, because that is quite literally, she is the final boss in this case. And it's just like, it's like in, okay, I think you might right. Do you know in like Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater? You got that one character who's like a sniper, but he's very old. And if you just sort of wait long enough, he will just die of old age, right? Apparently, he's this epic boss battle, but if you just wait long enough, he'll just die of old age.
You could go into the console, change the date on the console, and if you loaded your save, he would be dead.
This is literally how it feels, because you miss an entire boss battle for literally spending. This has taken too long, basically. And it's gone to the point now that Mother Superior is not really this. Yeah, she is an evil woman, and we still feel like she's an evil woman, but it's now almost like this is too much of an easy picking to be the final boss.
Probably like pity her in a way, don't you? But this is the thing. It could have represented Billy differently. It could have showed his pity for her, you know, not even bother thinking about killing her, because look at what she's become, you know. I pity her, perhaps, you know. That could have been something that was.
Or the idea is that you're already going through hell by literally maybe Mother Superior has more of a sickness. Maybe she's dying of cancer or something, and so like, I don't have to kill you. Karma's come to you. God has given you cancer.
And then maybe in this point is when Sister Margaret reasoned with him, reasoned that he's not the person who needs to make these decisions of naughty and nice, because, you know, life is clearly already doing that for some people, and snap him out of it, maybe. But no.
No, we get basically, again, out of the blue, just as he's about to swing his axe and kill Mother Superior, bang, 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 bang. And now this is the second Santa that the kids have seen shot.
They're just going to think every Christmas day is like this, you know? Every Christmas day, there'll be two Santas. They'll both get shot in the back.
Imagine if that's now become a Christmas tradition. It's like you see a little kid going, when is Santa coming? And when is he going to get horribly shot? It's like, shut up, Billy. Go.
Shut up, Billy. No more Santas. So there's maybe a tiny, slight attempt at redemption for Billy, because obviously in his last gasping moments, doesn't he say to the kids, like, you're safe now, Santa's gone.
Yeah.
And it's and Sister Margaret's there with him in his final moments. But obviously there's a little bit of a focus on Ricky, who is 14 now.
Yes.
Although he looked much younger than that. I was like,
I know, right? It's like 14-year-olds, puberty hasn't kicked in yet for him.
Not at all.
No.
And he's angry, he's fuming about the whole situation, and he's staring at Mother Superior, and the final freeze frame is after he says to her, naughty.
Yeah, and then it comes, and this is the thing. One thing we haven't mentioned, I'm going to throw this to you quickly. Then you get the horrible music. Now, the soundtrack for this is utterly disgusting. I hate it. The music is awful. It sounds like someone headbanged a Casio keyboard and said, this. It's awful. Like, there's no tunage. There's nothing. It's just, let's just press random synthesizer keys on a Casio just because it sounds creepy. It's disgusting. And so I at the end of it, when he says naughty, all you hear is sounds disgusting. I hated it. It's awful.
It's pretty nice. Music by Perry Botkin Jr.
It wasn't music.
He won a Grammy in 1977. He,
What?
he had his Grammy, and he was like, "I'm not interested anymore. I'm just going to do this
Well,
Christmas
look,
film."
I mean, this movie didn't have much of a budget. Like, this movie was just about like $750,000. So I'm assuming, so like, right, I'm giving you this much, and and he was going like, it's barely anything. I'm just going to give
This
him
is
like
what
a half-ass thing.
this is what you get. Yeah, and then that is the end of that film. So I know there are sequels too. I guess before we sort of jump into any other bits, have you seen all of the sequels? Have you just seen?
No, I've only seen Cyanide Daily Night Part 2. I haven't seen 3, 4, 5, or 6, which is technically a pseudo remake. I haven't seen those.
Okay.
I have seen 2, and I'll tell you right now, 2 is a lot better. And here's the reason why. You know all the bits we've kind of already moaned a bit about the first movie, because this movie was horrible. The Cyanide Daily Night 2 follows the story of Ricky this time, right? So it's Ricky.
Okay.
Ricky is now older. He's in an insane asylum. He's been committed. Blah blah blah. But the movie was criticized because it literally uses half of the footage from the original movie in a form of flashback, right?
Oh, okay.
However, it's no longer an hour and a half of all this. It's only 45 minutes of footage and then another 45 minutes to like an hour of new original stuff, using this as a framing compromise. So what it kind of does is it just gets all the best bits from Silent Night, Deadly Night in this new narrative device, and then it goes bananas and silly with it, and it becomes great. And now he goes on murderous rampage and tries to kill Mother Superior. But here's the best thing: this has been memeable. Cyanide Deadly Night Part 2 has one of the famous memes, which literally, this is the movie that has Garbage Day in it.
Garbage Day, yeah. I thought so.
This is the one that has Garbage Day. It is this. And it makes the movie now a black comedy. And it makes the whole thing now far more entertaining to watch and less grueling and pessimistic and nasty. It just makes it funny and campy. And it becomes a far better experience for me personally. And to the point is, I would honestly recommend, if anyone wants to watch Silent Night, Deadly Night, watch Part 2 if you just want to have fun with it. If you want to watch if you want to watch the first one, just be wary about what we've discussed, basically, that it is this thing. So yeah, it's bizarre how I would never say go for a sequel before the original, but this one, 1000%. If you want fun, watch the sequel.
Because you get, is it apparently 40 minutes of the original as well?
Yeah, it's literally like half the film is still, half of the original is in this movie. So it was heavily criticized for it because that movie only had the budget of $250,000. It had very little money.
Oh wow, okay.
So
1/3 of the original.
So by that point, they're saying, okay, well, since we have very little money, we can't really make a full movie, but we have enough to make a movie that could be used as a narrative device, and we still own the rights to the other half of the original movie, so why not do that? And it is a far more fun experience, and definitely cheesier, definitely dumber, definitely ridiculous. And basically, the one who Eric Freeman, who plays Ricky, is so campy and ridiculous. It is solid. It's fantastic. So yeah,
solid trash tapes recommendation, you'd say then.
100%. I would prefer this over this movie tenfold.
Amazing. Okay. I've got some name game for you. Do you remember how name game works? Do I need to remind you?
It's been a while. Do you want to tell me how name game works?
I'll remind you. So basically, I'll give you the synopsis of a movie which sounds very similar to Silent Night, Deadly Night, but there will be a slight change in the title based on the synopsis clue I give you.
Okay. All right, let's go for it.
I'll give you a very easy one first, so hopefully you will understand the concept better. But yeah,
okay.
I apologize in advance for some of these because I think Andy might be the expert, and occasionally when all the responsibility is on me to create them, I tend to do badly. Questionable. Okay, so little Billy witnesses his parents getting killed by Santa after being warned by a senile grandpa that Santa punishes those who are naughty and those who enjoy eating bread.
Eating bread?
This one's bad.
Eating bread. I don't know that one now. You said it's easy. I can't even figure that one out. Tell me the answer so I get the
Just
idea.
try and stick the word bread into the title of this movie.
Silent Night, Breadly Night.
Correct. Yeah.
That's
okay.
hilarious.
That's me getting you ready for the next few. Okay.
Oh my god. Okay.
This one's only going to work if you've seen Breaking Bad.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Little Billy witnesses his parents getting killed by Santa after being warned by a senile grandpa that Santa punishes those who cook meth. So basically, what I'm going to ask you to do is fit in a famous Walter White trademark saying / what word am I thinking of? Catchphrase into Silent Night, Deadly Night. A famous Walter White catchphrase.
I can't remember. I'm thinking if the catchphrase is "I am the one who knocks," and if that's the case, then I'm trying to figure out how the hell do I put it in this. Because the only thing weird enough, I'm thinking like it's Batman. It's like I am the night, I am the deadly night, but I can't.
That would have been pretty good as well.
That would have been great, but I can't think of how would I do that. I can't remember.
I'm not giving you the best clue, to be fair.
Nah, I'm just thinking if it's I'm the one who knocks, I'm trying to figure it out. It's like I can't think of it. I can't think of it. I'm sorry.
Silent Night, Treadly Light.
Treadly Light.
Says tread lightly, doesn't he? Sorry, I did tell you these weren't great.
It's hard. Don't worry.
Okay,
I'm not good at this. Go on.
Little Billy witnesses his parents getting killed by Santa at a Christmas-themed disco, where the DJ plays a song that Billy doesn't like, which is a mashup of various Christmas hits.
Okay. So it's a Christmas disco. What? Okay. What is this? Oh, this is literally just.
It's too hard. I'm sorry.
Oh, it makes me. It's now I like to call music. Basically, it seems like one of those.
Like that. So right, I'll give you another clue. You know,
Please.
when you're at a disco and all the songs from Greece are played like in one go.
Yes, it's a mega mix.
It's a mega mix. What else would you call that?
What would we call a mega mix? I always thought it was a mega mix, or maybe it was called it's not. If it says a mashup, it's not a mashup, or
it rhymes with deadly.
Deadly. Why am I drawing a blank now? This is so bad of me. I'm usually far better at this. I'm really bad at this. How is it so bad? I'm gonna hate myself. Tell me, please. I can't do this one. It's so bad.
Silent Night, Medley
Night. God damn it.
Silent Night, Medley Night, or I could call it Silent Night, Medley Shite.
He's very shite, medley shite.
Medley's a shite. I hate it when a medley comes on at any level of event. You know, when someone pulls out the medley or the mega mix. I think mega mix is probably the better way to describe it.
Yeah.
And I apologize not just to you, Johann, but to everybody listening for the next one.
Go on.
Little Billy witnesses his parents getting killed by Santa after being warned by a senile grandpa that Santa punishes those who not only are naughty, but those who gradually change ethnicity, similarly to Michael Jackson.
So now you want me to name the condition?
not the condition as such. I'm hoping this isn't too offensive. I don't think it's too offensive. But I apologize for the terrible nature of it.
Oh, what? Oh God! Like
Silent Night,
something night. But it's more about what is that thing then?
It's not something night. It's Silent Night, something.
Got you. Okay. Someone who changes ethnicity like Michael Jackson.
And I'm not to say Michael Jackson didn't ever change ethnicity, just physically, perhaps the representation of that ethnicity was altered over time. If he had plastic surgery or not, who knows? Who's to say? I'm not going to confirm or deny that because I don't know.
I'm just having the funny thoughts now. Silent Night, barely white, but that is really awful.
It's pretty awful, but you're very close.
Oh my God! Oh my goodness!
White really is the final word, but now think of a word that kind of feels like deadly.
Deadly. Something white. Oh my goodness. Why do I feel like I'm treading on eggshells because I don't want to offend your listeners by saying it. I can't think of it, but probably I know it's white now. I thought it was
I
barely
mean,
white because it's not really the case.
I
But
think it would give you the point for barely white, but it
yeah.
is Silent Night, steadily white.
God damn it. These are awful.
They're pretty
I
awful.
love it, but
And
they're awful.
I did apologize. Not only did I apologize beforehand, but I also apologize to everybody for this particular section of the show. I think Andy is a lot better at these than me. But that's it. That's what I only had 4. I don't know if you've got
Thank God
any
for that.
over, Johann. Have you got any name game for me?
No,
Silent
because
Night.
I don't think I can because now I think I'm broken now. I need a moment to recover because I just feel like
Silent Night, Breadly Night was the most basic one, and I even included the word bread in the clue, which is a rule you should never do. You should never do that with name
But
game.
it's gotten to the degree where thinking like, yeah, we need something like this. Oh my goodness, that was I apologize for my poor responses to that, but my God, those were surprisingly like either hard or like what?
I've been on the receiving end of name game for so long that I know exactly where you stand. Sometimes Andy will say something, I'm like, you're just saying words.
Yeah,
I
it makes no
don't
sense.
know what you mean.
Yeah.
Okay. But that was fun. You got a bit right.
I got 1.5 points. Well done.
So now we got to rate the movie. So obviously we rate the films like A to F. How do you feel about this? I mean, initially after watching this film, I felt a bit more upbeat about it, but after discussing it with you, I realized, it is lacking in some ways.
If I was going to grade this, I'd give it a C-. I think the reason why I give it a C- because there's a foundation here that's really interesting. It's this whole there's a character development here that literally just completely disappears quite literally halfway through, as if the movie just built up all this stuff only for it to just become a punchline and reach the end. But if this movie was done with more sensitivity and better hands, I think the story of there is fascinating, which is why I'm giving it a C-. And plus, there are some really bloody murders that are really interesting, but it's also an incredibly downer of a movie that really kind of put me in a bad mood again afterwards, and just reminded me that I really should watch the second part more because that's more of a cheerful approach. So I'd give this a C- because there's something there. Like, I'm not gonna like say, oh, there's nothing here. There is something here, and done by someone else, it would have been amazing. But this is it left me sour at the end.
Not a cheery Christmas movie to watch then and enjoy. I guess the only thing Christmassy about it is the fact that there is a Santa suit in it. Also, the bells on the cuffs of the Santa suit. What's that about? Is that a thing?
I never knew that was a thing. I mean, because I always thought the reason why you hear the bells is because that's the reindeer, right? Yeah. I didn't think it came from the goddamn sleeves.
Because I'm thinking you can't really sneak around as a slasher with the old bells on you, can you?
Chinga, 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 ching, boom. Nah.
Yeah. See, so at the end of this film, I kind of felt a little bit like, oh, that was pretty good, But after discussing it with you, I've kind of thought, okay, it is lacking in a lot of areas. And I think it does a really good job of setting up this character of Billy in terms of his trauma and everything like that. But I feel like it doesn't do him as a character much justice in terms of the fact it just turns him into this mindless killer who's kind of just saying punish, punish, punish over and over again. That's a bit difficult to take because I kind of feel like, it feels quite tragic. I already mentioned that. It feels quite tragic. And
he is tragic.
I feel sorry for the character, but also just the way it was kind of treated. And I think by the time the finale or the final third kind of rolls around, I feel like it lost some level of momentum. I'll probably go for a straight C, just because I think I did enjoy it more than perhaps I expected to, just because, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of like sort of Christmas horror movies, but I felt like this was kind of, it kind of felt a bit silly in places, but not necessarily in a way that was, you wouldn't say you're having a great time with it. It was just one of those films, wouldn't it? But maybe looking at the ridiculous nature of it through a modern lens back at like this 1984 movie that was clearly very controversial. And for I guess for good reason, but at the same time, looking back at it kind of makes you feel a bit that that's kind of a bit silly that it did get so much, that there was so much controversy attached. So yeah, I think just a straight C for me. I think it's worth a watch if you've not seen it before. Maybe I'll check out some of the sequels eventually at some point. Who knows?
Part two. Number two. All the others I have no idea, and I don't think it'd be any good. Part two, definitely. I think that's a fair assumption. There is something here. Watch it once, see if you like it. Like that, it's not unoriginal in that sense. There's some really good deaths and stuff like that, but yeah, it's too dour and too.
It's very dour. It's very negative. It's got a bit, definitely lots of missed opportunities in terms of the plot and in terms of character arcs as well, and it does feel quite mean spirited, you know. And I know a lot of slasher films are like that. They are mean spirited by design, but I don't know. You still want a little bit of substance to it, don't you? And you kind of want to root for somebody. The fact that there's not really like another character who goes up against Billy in any way. It's kind of just this story about him, and it's kind of odd for the antagonist of the film to be like the main character in a slasher, at least.
It's a villain origin story, like we said. You know, it's almost the same way. Okay, this is going to sound a bit interesting, a bit weird that way, but it's a little bit like when you watch Joker a bit. Joker in the same way is like, here is this character's been beaten and beaten and beaten down, and then by the end of it, boom, he goes full villain. But by that point, we've spent so much time with him that I'm not saying completely relate to him or understand him, no, but you feel less like it's suddenly like a snap and he's lost all his morals and his motives or anything. He has a goal. He knows what his goal is. It just happens to be that. Here, the moment he finally snaps over, he's a robot. He's just a killing robot. There is nothing here, and that is just such a shame.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Yeah, definitely a disappointment, but still, if you're looking for a festive fright, it's definitely something worth checking out in terms of like a film that's probably got a bit of a cult following now, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there we go. That is Silent Night, Deadly Night. Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed the show, please become a patron of the show over at patreon.com/horror hangout. Thank you to our current patrons, who include John Crinner, Ben Scaife, Stephen Christopher, Laura Kendrick, Toby Miller, Lane Spencer, Ollie Child, Leslie Carlo, Julia Bilgren, Nick Spill, Troy Birch, and Pazuzu. Thank you to Taj Easton for our theme music. Thanks to Acast for hosting the show. Please consider giving us a rating or review. Head over to the Facebook group Horror Hangout Board of Advisors for more. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and even TikTok now. Can you believe it?
Woohoo!
Woohoo! Johann, where would you like us to direct our listeners to you and to Trash Tapes and to Enigmatic, anything like that? We'll put all the links in the show notes as well.
Well, we're doing a lot more on Enigmatic now. So we have, if you go onto Instagram if you go to Instagram, you go at Enigmatic, you find us there. If you want to find out stuff on TikTok, Ed has his own TikTok, it's Harvey Retro. You find Enigmatic stuff there. When it comes to the podcast, you can just type in the Trash Tapes on any place. We have it on Acast, but you can literally do it on anything. So if you type in the Trash Tapes, you find episodes there, which are sporadically coming out at this moment because we're doing a lot of other stuff as well. You can find me on Instagram as well under Johann_Trash Tapes, so you can find that they're down there as well. And yeah, just follow us on those kind of things. We're like, if you type in Enigmatic Productions, you'll mostly find us on Facebook, on Twitter, and that kind of thing by doing it like that to find any information. And like I said, in January time, we're going to be doing the Cult Film Club screening. So if that's something that interests you, come along there. It'll be good times.
Yeah, we'll put a link to that in the show. Are tickets available for that? Yeah,
they are available now. Yeah.
Wonderful. So we'll grab a link for that and put that in the show notes as well, if that sounds like it's up your street. Apart from that, definitely have to get you and Ed back on the show at some point very soon. I know we've already discussed pre-recording that we've got some ideas of films to cover. I know Andy wants to cover certain films, so let's do it. Next week, we're doing Bloody New Year, which is a New Year movie. I've never seen it. Andy has. A New Year movie set in July, but perfect way to round off the year. Exactly. So thanks again, Johann, for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. Good times and happy Christmas, season's greetings, happy holidays to everyone out there who celebrates. And if you don't celebrate, just don't turn into a Santa Claus killer, because as we've learned from this movie, nobody wins. Nobody wins. You just get shot in the back, and that's not fun for anybody.
Wise.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, see you later. Thanks for listening, everybody.